Gentlemen, welcome to the Sprinklr Digital Transformation Summit.
Nashville in 1 hour? Let's do it!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sprinklr President Carlos Dominguez.
And welcome to Sprinklr's first ever customer event, our Digital Transformation Summit. My name is Carlos Dominguez, and I'm going to be your host and MC over the next couple of days. So welcome. Did you enjoy the video? I really hope you had fun last night. I sure did, and by what I saw, it appears that a lot of you were having a lot of fun. So thank you. Second thing I want to say is that it is wonderful to see so many of you that have joined us here for a historic event for us. This is our first event. And when I've spent time with many of you that are customers, I always get asked the same question. When are you going to do an event? So it's finally here, and I'm glad you're here with us. Also, we're doing it in a very historic place, Nashville. How many of you have been to Nashville before? Raise your hand. Oh, my God, there's a lot of people that know where to go. Actually, there's only one street you got to worry about anywhere where all the bars are. So how many of you are here for the very first time? Wow. Wow, you're in for a treat. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So let me kick it off by really just asking you a question. When you think of Nashville, what comes to mind? Come on, scream it out. Come on. I'm confused. You're saying all sorts of crazy things. What is it? Music. Nashville is also known, by the way, if you haven't gone down Broadway, this is where we did all the crazy filming, a lot of fun. There's 30 bars, all with music. But Nashville is also known as the Music City. And all you got to do is hang out there for a little bit, and you'll know why. So what I want to do is really play a little game with you to test your knowledge of Nashville. We're going to play a little true or false game here. Are you ready? You don't sound like you're ready. Are you ready? Okay, that's more like it. That's more like it. So here's the first question I have for you. The first FM license in the United States was granted to a radio station in Nashville. How many of you think it's true? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you think it's false? Okay, unfortunately, it is true. Okay, and as a matter of fact, it was granted to a radio station by the name of WSM in 1941. It's very much in line with the history of music. So let me ask you the second question here. It's another true or false. Elvis recorded over 250 songs at RCA's historic B, his Studio B on Music Row. How many of you think that's true? Raise your hand. Okay, How many of you think it's false? Raise your hand. We're going to work on you a little bit more, right? It's actually true, right? Elvis recorded amazing tunes there. Things like It's Now or Never. Are you lonesome tonight? I'm going to clear the place. Thank you, thank you. I'll keep my day job. Heartbreak Hotel and Hound Dog. How about this one? For 4,500 plus consecutive Saturdays, the Grand Ole Opry has broadcast a show over radio. How many of you think that's true? Raise your hand. Well, we're getting better. Getting better. Yeah, no, it's very true. Right? As a matter of fact, when you think about it, it's the world's longest running radio show. All in line. But let me be very truthful. Any psychologists in the room? Anybody? Therapist? No? Okay. We all see our therapist. But what I was doing is something called preconditioning. That's really what I care about. The first three questions I really didn't care about. I've been preconditioning you. And the only reason I've been preconditioning you is the next true or false is the one I really care about. And it goes like this, is that Carlos Dominguez is usually confused with Keith Urban. How many of you think that's true? Raise your hand. It worked. How many of you think it's not true? I got to work on we're going to have a talk, but what I want to show you, stare into Keith Urban's eyes. Stare at his eyes. Keep looking at him. Keep looking at him. Keep looking at him. Do I look like Keith Urban or what? I also, when we were having the event in Nashville and this site got picked, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but I'm Cuban Chinese, and I am not like the center of the DNA for country music, right? So I would be very untrue to show up in this musical, historic place and not really be in tune to what's going on. So what I ended up doing was I really immersed myself. I started, did my Sonos with my Amazon Music and started listening to all the, Sam Hunt and Blake Shelton and Luke Bryan and one of my favorites, Thomas Rhett, who's been killing it at the CMA and a whole bunch of other places. And then one of my neighbors who was a real country music fan, and he's got the right DNA for that. He owns a pickup truck, too. He comes to me and he says, these aren't the real country artists. You got to kind of go back to the original. So what I started doing was I did exactly that. Started listening to Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson and Loretta Lynn and, of course, my man Johnny Cash. And it was a really engaging experience to immerse yourself in something like this. And I came up with 3 thoughts out of listening to country music. The first one is they're amazingly talented musicians. They play great songs. They sing great harmonies. They're really, really good. The second thing I learned is that they sing about life. And they do it in a really good way. As a matter of fact, I did a word cloud. This is kind of beer and, chicken hat, sweet tea, country road. But you get my message. And the third one that came out of that is I think they're very funny. It's really an art to be able to not only create a song, create an incredible story, and make it humorous. So being kind of a very serious kind of person that I am, I went and I started scouring, the internet. And I found what I would consider the 5 funniest country music song titles that I want to share with you. And by the way, you can Google any of these. They're really true country song titles. So are you ready? You ready? I'm going to share this. You got to be in with me. You got to be in it to win it. Right? So here's the first one. How can I miss you if you don't go away? I think that's pretty creative. How about this one? If the phone don't ring, you'll know it's me. That's a hit. That's a hit. I feel it in my bones, right? It's a love song or a breakup song, I guess. How about this one? You are the reason our kids are so ugly. That's a cruel one. It's a cruel one. Yeah, probably written by a female performer for the guys. How about this one? Mama, get a hammer. There's a fly on Daddy's head. I kid you not. There's songs about this stuff. But this is my favorite. I got to leave you with my favorite. And my favorite is my wife ran off with my best friend, and I sure do miss him. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? We're in a wonderful place. So enough about joking about music and joking about Nashville. Let's turn my attention to all of you. Right? Really interesting group of people that are here. And if you kind of just go by the numbers, 540 of you are here joining us for this historic event for us. So first of all, thank you. 40% of you are existing customers, and as I told the sales team, boy, there's a really good opportunity to engage here with 60% of you that are not our customers, but the reality of it is talk to each other and share. And 65% of you are director level or above. Very, very good mix of people and stuff that's going on here. There's over 50 industry verticals represented. 60% of the companies here have greater than 10,000 employees, and there's over 20 countries that are attending. So I just wanted to say thank you again for being a part of this event. And what I wanted to do, too, is it wasn't just geographically focused in this generic area, right, of the U.S. We actually had people traveling from far away. So what I want to do is I want to recognize, where is our Japanese team? Where are they? Stand up. Are they here? Stand up. So thank you for coming so far. And as a matter of fact, whose birthday is it today? Oh! So happy birthday. You and I will have a celebratory drink later today, so thank you for coming so far. And by the way, just so you know, since you've traveled so far, we've actually put together a little survival kit for you. So it comes with Red Bull. It comes with no dose, right? That'll keep you up. And if you drink too much of these two and you need to kind of calm yourself down, it also comes with a little Jim Beam. Kind of balance you out here, you know. So enjoy. They got the kits. And this is not only here. There were a lot of people that wanted to come, and unfortunately, they weren't able to make it. So what I want to do is I want to make a little bit of noise. There are over 3,000 plus people that are watching this live stream. And what I'd like to do is we got to show them we're having fun, and we got to give them a warm welcome from Nashville. So let's put our hands together for the live stream. Woo! Yeah! Thank you. So we're really sorry you're not here, but I promise you we'll drink 3,000 drinks for you just to make sure we don't leave you behind. So I also want to thank our partners. I've done many of these throughout my career, and partnerships are absolutely critical, not only at events, but in successes of company. And we feel, and I feel extremely blessed that we have incredible partnerships. I'd like to acknowledge our platinum partners, Deloitte and Microsoft. Where are you? Raise your hand or stand up if you wouldn't mind. There they are. Thank you. Also, our gold partners, IBM, SAP, and Twitter. Where are you? Stand up. Raise your hand. Thank you. And also our silver and content partners, LinkedIn, IdeaCage, Yahoo, and Forbes. Please stand up, raise your hand. Thank you. By the way, a lot of the alcohol and food being provided by them, so I'm glad we clap for them, and thank you again. So a couple of things I want to share with you, too, is how many of you have been to the Transformation Hub? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you have not been to the Transformation Hub? Only one or two? All right, so I guess I don't have to pitch it to you. The only words of advice that I would give you is in the Microsoft one, that's there, the Transformation Hub, where they got all the cool games, they got this thing that spins. Do not do that. It does tip over, as I learned. They told me it doesn't. It does tip. And that product is not made by Microsoft, as I want to let you know. So go to the Transformation Hub. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do today at 6:40, it's not 6:39, it's 6:40. I wanted to tell you, we're going to do a toast. So if you get a moment and you have the ability to go there at 6:40, we welcome you, and it'd be a privilege and honor to have you there. So when we started thinking about the conference is, you got to kind of set some goals. And what I wanted to do was share where we've spent a lot of time thinking about what we want to achieve out of all of you being here. And there were 3 things that came out of it. So the first thing I want to do is you have to, and I hope you learn something. You're investing your most precious asset, which is your time, right? And if you walk away with learning something, then it's time well invested. So there are I just want to let you know, besides the main stage, there are over 40 breakouts that are taking place. And it's going to happen today in the afternoon. So is everyone signed up for breakouts? Yeah, as a matter of fact, where's Jenny from TSA? Jenny from TSA. If you don't know Jenny from TSA, you got to meet Jenny from TSA right up in the front. As a matter of fact, her breakout session is called, Can I Bring a Festive Piñata as a Carry-On? They get if you don't follow TSA, you should. They get the funniest things tweeted at them. So welcome, Jenny, and I'm glad you're leading one of the sessions for us. And for the other 39 of you or plus that are doing it, thank you also. This event would never happen without you. So not only you come to learn, we're making you work. Doesn't get any better than that. Then I also, the second goal was to make a friend. This is an intimate group. This isn't like some of the events that John and I have done where there are 25,000 people. It's intimate, 540 people, right? So what I want to do is just take a moment, turn to your left and introduce yourself if you don't know the individual next to you. Take a moment. Okay? Turn to the right. Turn to the right. Okay. Front and back. Front and back. Clive, how are you, Clive? How you doing? Good seeing you. Okay. Boy, they're making friends. Okay, you have enough time to make friends later. As Staples would say, that was easy. And by the way, tonight we have a really cool party at the Bell Tower. So not only are you going to meet the people around you, but you're going to get to party and have fun with all of you. So make sure you make some friends while you're here. And last but not least, right? Everything is about, in our philosophy, is people will never remember what you said. They'll always remember how you made them feel. So what we're really trying to plan over the next couple of days is helping you make memories right here. So I'd like to steal a play from Ellen DeGeneres. And I'd like to do a selfie with all of you and get up on Twitter. Are you in it to win it with me? All right, let's go. Let's do it. Where's my selfie stick? Okay, here we go. We weren't kidding. Okay, so you got to pretend like you're having fun and stuff. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got one. Let's do one this way. Let's make sure we don't. Okay, let's do one this way. Ellen's got nothing on me, baby. Nothing. So we'll make memories. We'll get this up, and you'll get it up there, Tiffany, and keep going. So the other thing we did is we have a hashtag, if you have any questions about anything, hashtag Ask Carlos. Now, let me break it to you. I'm not going to be the person responding, but we're leveraging this incredible system called Sprinklr. And we've got community managers that are going to respond to your questions. And by the way, I know we'll do that. If you have another idea, we also want you to know that we've assigned you a Sprinklr host. If you haven't received an email who tells you who they are, you should have that. So we're going to take care of you here. This is all about you. We want this to be a phenomenal experience. So don't hesitate if anything comes up. So let me bring it back. And I've been joking around and we've been having fun. But let's talk a little bit about why we're here, right? I don't think any of us would argue that things are easy in today's world. everything has dramatically changed, and it's kind of like drinking taking a sip from the fire hose. And one of the things that I kind of think about and I kind of share, everyone I talk to is always like, oh my God, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And what I tell everybody is we're all in the same boat. So we can do group therapy here for the next couple of days. You don't have to go see your therapist because we're all experiencing the same things. And the real reality is, what do we do about it? And what we keep forgetting is that in the last 25 years, we had the birth of the internet that connected us to information. I was blessed to be able to see that transformative technology through the eyes of Cisco with John and saw how we connected the world, and it changed everybody. It changed lives. It changed business forever. We saw mobile, how it connected us with that information any place, anywhere, anytime. And the most disruptive technology is really social. And why is social disruptive? Because it's connected us to each other in ways that we could never imagine. And that has given way to a very different customer. We're all serving customers in a very different sort of way. The first thing is, I don't think we'll ever argue that people have power today unlike ever before. They can use it, as we have seen, to overthrow a government, or as we've seen over the last couple of days with a few brands that have been challenged, and how social media has really been the vehicle and where the people have come together. The second thing I don't think we'll argue is that knowledge is democratized. Everything we need to know about anybody, we can find out. As a matter of fact, if you're going to go work for a company, where's the website? Where do you go? Where do you go to learn about a company? Glassdoor. I had the privilege of getting invited by a very senior human resources person to come in and talk to her. And I said to her, what can I help you with? And during lunch, she says, well, we got a little bit of a problem, Carlos. And I said, what's the problem? She says, they're saying all these really bad things about us on Glassdoor, and I don't know what to do. So in a very innocent way, I said, well, are they true? And she says, oh, yeah, they're true. You can't hide. You can't market yourself out of a situation like that, right? In the old world, we just spend money and we're great. You can't do that stuff anymore because all they do is talk to each other, put it back on Glassdoor. If you don't change and if you don't do things the right way, everyone will know everything about you. The third thing, any CMOs or marketing, who's a marketing professional in the audience? A few of you, a lot of you. Whew. Tough these days, right? So we're living in a world that's no longer what you say, it's what they say. How many times do we convince somebody that they need your product, and when they go to the point of purchase, like Amazon, they read a review and buy something else? How many of you have done that, right? We've all done it. And the scary part is the person influenced me, I don't even know who the heck they are, right? Isn't that crazy? So as a CMO, you get people who want to buy it, and then all of a sudden, at point of purchase, it goes the other way. So it's no longer what you say, it's what they say, right? And the fourth thing is changing expectations. This generation that is coming, the millennials, 2020, they'll be your biggest customer, be over 50% of the population. Matter of fact, let me tell you a quick story. I have an incredible daughter who I love to death by the name of Kat. She takes out a brand new vehicle we bought, calls me 15 minutes later crying, and I got really scared. I said, are you okay? Are you okay? She goes, yes, Dad, I'm okay. I came to the mall, car was parked, and this truck came and ripped the mirror off. And I said, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And I said, then why are you crying? He says, because I've tweeted the insurance company, and I posted on their Facebook page, and it's been 20 minutes, and I haven't heard from them. Typical dad. Sweetheart, there's a glove compartment in the car. And if you open it up, there's a little card with insurance. If you flip it over, there's a 1-800 number. Call them and make sure you get a police report and give them all the information. She comes home an hour later. She's gone from this demeanor of I'm so sorry, to being angry. And I'm saying, what's going on? She says, Dad, I did what you told me, and I called the insurance company. They transferred me 5 times, and I gave them the same information. You need to find a new insurance company. And I laughed it off. But later on that night, I'm thinking about it is, they're not going to dial a 1-800 number. They're going to go on any channel that they desire, and you better be there, right? And when you think of all of these things, and there's many more, right? Everything has changed. How we learn about a brand, how we form an opinion, buy a product, everything about our businesses. So as we think over the next 2 days together, right, what do we need to do differently to be able to transform? Which is not easy. I tell everyone that you got to look at this from a survival point of view. And you can look at the animal kingdom. Very, very easy. Survival is real easy. When the environment changes, so must you. And I don't think any of you would argue that this environment we're dealing with today is the same environment that we've had in the past. It's totally new. And we need to adapt. We need to change. So there's 4 key changes that I think we collectively need to make, and I'd love to dialogue with you over the next 2 days. Right? The first key change is we all need to transform. We all know that. That's why we're here. Right? The second thing is leadership needs to support and drive this initiative. Change will not happen from the bottom up. It happens from the top down. Thus why we have a speaker like John Chambers, right, that is going to be speaking to you in a moment, right? Top CEO of one of the largest companies in the world. And by the way, working for him for 22 years, I've seen him transform our business, our company, not once, but 5 times, right? Incredible insight that he can share with all of us. I've not met one single executive that's ever told me I want to deliver terrible customer experiences. Anybody want to deliver a terrible customer experience here? I mean, no, we all want to do it. The problem with delivering experiences is that it's really hard to do. There's a lot of challenges in delivering a great experiences. So we have Charlene Lee from Altimeter, who's going to be following John, and she's going to be taking it, to a more experience base. This is what she writes about. She wrote a groundbreaking book called Groundswell, right, which has been to me the definitive book on really on social media, and she did it early on. So you're going to get a treat, with her on that. And the last thing that we really need to do is social, as you probably know, is foundational as the voice of your customer. Right? You cannot deliver a great customer experiences unless you know what they want and unless you're listening to what they say. And social becomes that vehicle and foundational technology to be able to know your clients, to be able to deliver great experiences. So after that, Ragy will come on and give you a little bit more on the way we're thinking about it and his vision of where he wants to take the company. I can tell you he's a really, really incredible visionary. Following Ragy, we're going to have Paul Herman, who's our head on the product marketing side, to show you a preview of some of the things we're thinking about and we're going to be delivering very shortly that I think will make your life easier and also be able to enable you and empower you to be able to deliver better experiences. And then I'm going to get my friend Chris Moody. Chris, I haven't seen you. Are you here? Raise your hand. No, he'll be here. Chris Moody from Twitter, right, who I'm going to go up on stage, which I think as we start thinking of care and some of the other things that we're going to be evolving to, Twitter is the definitive technology that we need to talk about. So Chris will join me. So I think we've got a jam-packed agenda for you. Are you excited about it, or? Yeah? I don't know. You're not that excited. I hope you are. So what I'd like to do now is really take no more time and really introduce you to our first speaker. This next speaker is well known, probably to all of you. He was 20 years at the helm of Cisco, and my boss. He grew the company. Get a load of this. When he joined the company, Cisco was $70 million. And when he finally gave up the CEO role to Chuck Robbins, the company was $47 billion. Incredible growth. By the way, he used to be much taller and much more handsome. Takes a lot out of you to do that. But 100, he's got the mic next. He's going to kill me. 180 acquisitions under his leadership. And if you look up awards, he's been recognized as the number 2 best performing CEO in the world. In the U.S., in the world by HBR. He's won the Edison Achievement Award for Innovation, which I was there. And I have to tell you, an amazing event. Barron's, the world's best CEO, the best boss in America in 2020. Or, I'm sorry, by 2020, not 2020. And I have a very unique view. I have the privilege of having worked with him and knowing him exceptionally well. And I can tell you his greatness and knowledge is very, very hard for anyone to exceed. But more than that, he is one of the humblest, kindest, and most generous individuals in the world. And I'm privileged and honored to introduce you to my friend and colleague, John Chambers.
I was watching Carlos, and Ragy sit over here watching you all, and flashback occurred. Just over 25 years ago, I was in a session identical to this. It was my first session, and I was to be CEO of Cisco as long as I didn't mess up. That's why they recruited me. And I was talking to our customer segment. And oddly enough, scarily, there were about 500 of them. And I looked at the room, and they were mainly techies who were communicating data, often from universities or at very leading-edge customers. And I said, you can feel a fundamental change occurring in this market, where today it's mainly those of us who love technology doing this. But this will change the way the world works, lives, plays, and learns. At the time, even some of our strongest supporters said, John, you're a router company. How does this change the world? And yet we do know that the internet made a huge impact in a way technology never has before, beginning to break down the barriers of equality and diversity and inclusion. And at that time, we were a company with 400 people. But you can see an instant replay start to occur. And I think it's very appropriate we're in Nashville today on this stage, and the launch of what I believe will be a new industry, truly focusing on the customer experience management as a part of the bigger picture of digitization. And just like the internet did, and in the 90s, think about it, in the U.S. alone, 22.5 million jobs created, 24% growth in real average family income. America hasn't had a raise since then. 34% over an 8-year time period on GDP growth. The digitization, connecting of what will be 500 billion devices, getting the right information to the right person at the right time to make the decision for entertainment, for purchasing, for health care, will change every aspect of our lives. Cause us to live longer, maybe for the first time be inclusive of all 7.5 billion people in the world. And yet it is exactly where the internet was at this point in time. If you agree with everything I say today, I will fill. I want to make you a little bit uncomfortable. I want you to get excited about what the future holds for us. But I also want to make you uncomfortable because it will move at 3 times the pace, maybe even 5 times the pace that the internet itself did. This is a time, unlike the internet era, which evolved gradually, this is a time of disruption. And you either get disrupted or you have to be the disruptor. And 3 years ago, when I started telling the biggest companies in the world that 40% of you would not exist in a meaningful way in a decade, they said, John, and Carlos was kind enough to word it, you've called almost every major market transition right, both economically and technology-wise, but this time you're going to be wrong. When you talk to Ford and GM and Walmart and JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Telekom today or a year ago, they would say, John, the number is too low. More than half of us will be irrelevant in a decade. So it's a time of tremendous opportunity, but tremendous challenges. I always look at it from the top down. It's important that each of us in this room are the champions in your individual accounts and the way you interface to your leadership team. And you have to have those champions. But it starts with the CEO or the government leader, head of state. And it starts with the ability to first understand what's on their mind. Every one of your CEOs and every government leader, regardless of where you are in the world, is looking at how they grow. Growth is about the future of your economy, the future of your company, and survivability. Within that, they're saying, how do they grow in an efficient way with productivity? Because that's how you increase the standard of living. They look at this new digitization era as a period of disruption, but something that will usher in tremendous innovation literally across the board. And they know at the heart of that is the customer or citizen experience. It's a simple understanding what the window is in front of us. And just like 25 years ago, I think today will be one we look back and say, this was the launch of a new segment of the industry. It was perhaps in part also creating a new segment of the industry through the visionary leadership of Ragy, Carlos, and the entire team. Let me back it up with some statistics that when you take a step back, and this is what I would use with your CEO, 9 out of 10 customers, whether they're businesses or consumers, expect when they touch base with you, either in your customer service section, in your marketing interface, your e-commerce interface, etc., they want a consistent experience. And yet each of you have 20 to 30 different vendors in each of those categories that don't even talk to each other. 70% of the buying experience, do they feel good about this or are they going to repeat, has to do with literally how that customer experience felt during this buying process. $14 billion in the U.S. alone last year that we could identify due to lost sales. 60% of your customers, and this is a conservative number, stop buying a given brand because of poor customer experience. But as all of us know, you don't completely stop. You often just don't buy as much of a given brand. And to put that in perspective, at a time that every CEO in the world would do almost anything as long as it's legal and ethical to get 10% growth in profits, if you cut your retention rate by 5%, in other words, you didn't lose 10% of your customers, you only lost 5%, your profits will be up 75%. Where else can you get that type of impact so quickly in the market? 80% of your future revenue growth will come from 20% of your existing customers. So how you treat them will determine do you grow or not in the future. And the experience tying it together, you've got to have marketing, you've got to have e-commerce together, and you've got to also have your customer service group. Because what is the most important way that customers view how you value them is how do you handle them in the customer service department. But so often, in marketing, we're trying to get the customer on the phone and talk to us. And what do we do in customer service? We try to figure out how do we get them off the phone and get the situation closed as quickly as possible. A little bit too close to home, isn't it? How we as companies value our customers is measured by how we handle them, especially in service situations, not to mention the buying side of the house and the marketing. That would determine your innovation, it would determine your growth, it would determine your productivity. As you think about where this is going in terms of direction, and as we move on to the next slide, what you saw earlier this week was amazing. Tesla passed the American automobile giant GM in market cap. In a period of only 14 years, they moved from a company that didn't exist to the most valuable American automotive company. You've seen this movie before, haven't you, with the internet era? Amazon, in 21 years, moved past the value of Walmart in 2015. Now, here are 2 good examples that reverse the trend. What Nike did in terms of understanding about how to reinvent themselves and how to change that customer experience, that service experience, that e-commerce experience, and united it under common architecture, watch here their stock and how they did not get overtaken by a new challenger. And Microsoft, even though they tripped a little bit along the way, they reinvented themselves. And watch what Satya and team has done with a common interface, how they think about interfacing their customers, both of which are strong Sprinklr customers and, more importantly, partners. But it is this speed of disruption that becomes key. Uber. You can say, John, that's not a car company. It absolutely is. It's a technology company, as all of you will become technology companies, that passed the market capitalization of Tesla in 7 years. Amazon, 21 years. Tesla, 14. Uber, 7. This pace is accelerating. And it is because you have market transitions, technology transition, business model transitions, customer expectations changing. And it is going to be a social media world. And if we do not change and get our companies to change, they will get left behind. Carlos and I had a chance to shape Cisco's future over 25 years. We did 3 things really well at Cisco that were the foundation for our growth. And remember, we ended up leading almost every market transition in our segment of the industry. We're number 1 in 12 of 18 major product areas, number 2 and 4. Average market share is 50%. Never been done. But it was innovation enabled by competing not against a competitor, but getting the market transition, next business model, getting the next technology, voice moving to the internet, moving to the cloud, moving to digitization is what we did. And we were always driven by our customers, fanatically driven, in part because I came out of IBM and Wang, both of whom were on top of the world and got too far away. Wang collapsed, 32,000 jobs gone. IBM took decades just to recover, to get back to where they were before. Being close to customers, really understanding their needs and walking the talk and tying it to compensation in everything you do. That customer experience every time they touch you is what Cisco does better than any other high-tech player in the world. But we also realized it's about architectures, because products in silos are like organizations in silos. If you don't break down the silos, you can't focus on outcomes with the speed that's needed in this market. And the same thing is true in products. When you think about the importance of the customer experience management, it can't be in silos within marketing, different silos within services, different silos within e-commerce, and not talking together. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? It's a movie I've seen before. It's also a movie that I've been through 5 to 6 major disruptions. Some of them we created, some of them we got knocked down, and we recovered strong versus what had occurred before. But our competitors from 15 years ago, all gone. 10 years ago, great players, Nortel, Lucent, Alcatel, Siemens, etc., a rounding error of what they were. That was an internet transition. This is a digital transition that's going to move with a faster pace. And to put meat behind how strongly I believe in the customer experience and why I'm so excited to be associated with Sprinklr and the ability to coach this leadership team and a great CEO and a great president is because this is what we've always done at Cisco. We've been number 1 in our industry in customer satisfaction for a decade and a half. We've paid every one of our leaders in our company on customer satisfaction as measured by independent surveys, same as Net Promoter Skills, for 20 years. When there's a critical account, you drop what you're doing to solve that customer's problem, no matter whether you're the CEO or the individual engineer. And I listened to every critical account in the world for 20 years. Because if I listened to it every night, it meant our company focused on it. And our strongest relationships were the customers that had problems. I see several of the Cisco alumni here. Because when they had a problem, we helped them like no one else. That's where you earn the loyalty. And I've never understood this, but the customers who had problems and you fixed, you got more revenue from than the ones who did not. I had a really creative head of marketing said, John, no problem. What we're going to do, we'll create a problem in every account, we'll fix them, and we'll get more return. That wasn't exactly what I was expecting out of marketing. But the point that I'm making is when we talk about the customer experience, this changes everything. This will determine your future of your organization. You either disrupt or you're going to get disrupted. And you've got to identify that it's important for you to be the champion, but you have to get the leader to understand why this is going to make the difference in her or his future for their organization. I thought governments would be the last one that got this concept, digitization, because it is hard, it requires transformation, it is risky, it is complex. And you know who got it first? Governments. I want to say it's the U.S., but we're the only major country in the world that doesn't even have a digitization plan. Israel, we would all expect technology leader. But it was France. The last place in the world you would want to run a business. The last place, great place to visit. When we said 2.5 years ago, and you talk about quantum market transition, right, that France would become the startup nation in Europe, I got calls from some of my strongest friends. They said, John, we finally got you. This one isn't going to happen. France averaged about 130 startup ventures in high tech a year. You know where I'm going? Guess who led Europe this last year with $486 venture capital investments in high-tech France. There is no entitlement. There is no entitlement that this country will lead or that your company will lead. The government leaders got it. Prime Minister Modi may be the top leader, and I've met every leader in the world I've ever met in my life. He's outlined an amazing vision for changing 1.3 billion people's lives, and his digital agenda is completely aligned. And by the way, Cisco is his partner, just like we were in France. Aligned in terms of how this transformation will change everything in a country, that will change permanently the approach, and he's moving with the speed. India used to be a very slow follower. India is now leading, and when he did his monetization change, which you read about, everybody went, whoa, that's fast enough. He digitized his currency in a weekend with risk. And the citizens got it. And for the first time ever in elections, he carried every class in the largest state in his country. Never been done before in the history of India. This is what leadership is about. Leadership is having the courage to outline a vision, to catch a market transition, talk about how your citizens or your customers' expectations are changing, and then how do you enable this? And you have to catch the transition at the right time. I clearly believe the time is now. And when you begin to think about it, it is about this digital world. And what is a digital world? It's moving from connecting 1,000 devices to the internet when Cisco was founded, to in the early 90s, 1 million, to 17 billion today, to 500 billion. 500 billion in 10 years. It isn't connectivity. It's getting that right information with one view of your customer to the right person or right machine to make the right decision. That's what this is all about. But it can't be done in silos by department, and it can't be done by 40 to 50 different silos in marketing alone, 25 different silos in terms of services, and another group in e-commerce. If you do it that way and you stay in silos and you don't disrupt yourself, you will be Ubered with a tremendous pace. They are a technology company first, a car asset sharing company second. Amazon. Everybody came on. You're not making any money at Amazon. You're never going to challenge a player like Walmart. They are the most powerful company in the world. You don't need to tell Doug at Walmart who his competitors are, and he has to win the virtual and physical interface. It is having the courage to think exponentially. Shimon Peres, who's a very good friend, and he passed away several months ago. He was almost like a second father to me. He said, John, you got to think like a teenager. Think exponentially. Because that's what social media is about, isn't it? It's not thinking like we were trained linearly and just do it 3 to 5% better. It is thinking exponentially what's possible. Having the courage to change it before it's obvious, because by the time it's obvious, you have been left behind. And realize that your company is not ready for this yet. That's why you've got to get the CEO, she or he, on board with the changes that are going to occur. Why companies succeed or fail in this new world of digitization? They either get the market transition or they don't. If they get it, they outline a clear vision and strategy. GE said they would become a technology company first, quote, a conglomerate manufacturing company second. Jeff Immelt clearly understands it. Jamie Dimon clearly understands it. Doug clearly understands it. GM and Ford are led by very great leaders. Mary is really good at GM. She knows she has to transform that company. She also knows that her rival, Mark Field, has to do the same thing at Ford. But they both know, while they used to view each other as the primary competitors, it's this new generation coming at them. And your competition will come at you with technology changes. When you think about the other segments, back up one slide, please. When you think about it, the other thing that we fall into the trap of is the more successful you are in the groups in your organization, especially if their marketing or customer service have been successful, who's the most difficult to change? That group. It's doing the right thing too long. That's the kiss of death. That's roadkill. You have to reinvent your company, and it starts with the CEO, and candidly, it starts with marketing. Marketing the way your grandparents did is unacceptable, right? But the grandparents were how you were marketing just 4 or 5 years ago. You've got to have the courage to change it, to be customer-driven. And I used to put a comment up there, and Candy, Mary, and Mark both told me to put it back on. I said one of the problems with leadership is they're overconfident. And they said, don't use the word overconfident, use we're arrogant. Because we have to get our leadership team to know and be uncomfortable to change. And by the time the whole leadership team is on board, it's way too late. This inflection point happened in 2015. It is on us now. The opportunity, $19 trillion. McKinsey would say we're too conservative by a factor 2 or 3-fold over the next 10 years. I don't know what $19 trillion really means until I broke it down. It's the size of the U.S. economy. It means 1 to 3% GDP growth incrementally for every country in the world. That means real salary increases on a regular basis if done right. It will affect everyone. When you look at the changes, 95% of your CEOs believe digitization will determine a large part of their future. But when you ask them, especially if it's over a glass of wine, they'll tell you, I really don't have a plan. Only 25% even believe they have a plan. Now, never mind about marketing and services and e-commerce working together. They don't even have a plan for the functional groups. 80% of CEOs honestly believe they have superior customer service. Show of hands in the room. How many of your CEOs believe they deliver superior customer service for their, how many do they believe? Not do you believe. How many do they believe really they deliver superior customer service? What's the problem? You call up your customers and less than 10% of them agree. This is a huge exposure. Just look at what Boeing has experienced, Wells Fargo's experienced. This is daily issues on how people are treated. And while Carlos was teaching about his daughter, the message was very simple. There's a market transition occurring in social media. It is the future, and you either get on it or you get left behind. The neat thing is it's manageable. It literally has the capability to transform a company. But as you transform, and 75% of the companies in this room will be digital in just 4 years. That's the good news. Bad news is only a third of you, it's going to work because you won't reinvent yourself. You'll just connect things and say, done. You're just going to say, I have a whole bunch of various marketing programs that do digital work, different ways of measuring customer satisfaction, different ways in services, different way of e-commerce. You've got to have the courage to change, and it is hard. It will be new business models. And you've got to get your structure in place before they come at you, your competition with these new business models. As you look at where we're going, next slide, please, and you think about the challenges, what's the number one challenge to you becoming digital in your company?
It's company culture.
Culture, without an exception. CEOs will say that, and the person making the changes. What's number two? You're good doing, no, you can't, look. You get him on camera. So, right over my shoulder.
Collaboration.
Yeah, it is. But it's working between the silos within the organization. Number three. Yeah, it really is. Number three. See, we took it away now. Now you're stuck. This is a good audio-video group.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, you have to reinvent. And this is especially hard for who? It was hard for the CEO. I mean, they struggle, and they are hesitant about putting the right resources on because CEOs today can get fired with just a couple quarters of missteps. Yet if I take my very best resources out of Cisco and put them for something 2 to 4 years out, I risk this quarter and this year. And that's what many companies do. They put just a few of you on this, and then it's the kiss of death. They say, you're the innovation team, go make it happen. They've got to own it, and they've got to put their talent of their whole organization behind it. You've got to think exponentially. You think linearly, 3 to 5%, you're behind. And it requires reinvention. And everything you do. If all you do is do the connectivity and you don't change the organization structure at Nike, you don't think differently about the customers. Their CEO had the courage to say, we're going to transform this. He took over from a very famous founder in Phil. But he said, we're going to tremendously change the customer experience. We're going to face, in terms of how you use social media, to understand what the customer needs are, to be there before they even start to look for them on our website, to, as those needs are met, say, then, by the way, can we help you in your next decision, and to change how they viewed Nike, reinventing themselves again and again and again. Satya's doing the same thing at Microsoft. But they're the exception. It is the ability to say, how do you transform? How do you capture this at a country level? And notice when I talk at country leaders, how often do I talk about technology, routing and switching, et cetera, and digitization? The only thing I talk about is digital India, digital Canada, digital UK, digital Germany. And it is business outcomes. What's the best form of government in the world? One that creates a middle class and grows rapidly, regardless of political parties. It is the ability to outline this. This is the sheet I use with Prime Minister Modi when we sit down every quarter. This is my report card on the partnership. He is betting the future of his country on a digital India. He literally is focused. Whatever his top priorities are, guess what mine are? It's the top one for me. I wish he hadn't chose manufacturing as second priority because it was his, it was mine. And we'll lead in that. You talk about job creation, 1.1 million jobs, new jobs a month they have to create. How can you do this not inclusive, creating 100 million new middle-class citizens in the country, but bring all 1.3 billion of the citizens with you? To say that this is his program and he's driving it through is an understatement. And yet when Ragy talked to him about what Sprinklr perhaps could do on touching the points and change the ability to listen, all of a sudden he goes, I get it. And he's different than the others. He sets the vision and strategy himself, and then he gets people to execute off of it. He has the potential, if he executes, to be the greatest leader I've ever met in my life in terms of results, and I've met them all. It is the ability to have courage to change before it's obvious. It's the courage to set an audacious goal and say, we can make it happen. It's the courage to ride the changes, which everyone in the industry would say are 2 or 3 at the very top. Internet of Things, connectivity to social media, if you will. All artificial intelligence and automation everywhere. Bringing all this information together, getting into a format that you have one view of your customers, and your whole view should be about making them successful. Physical and the digital world completely blurring. Those are the transitions. You talk about a launch of a product, not category, but a launch of a product industry. What does it require? It requires a major change in technology and a major change in business models. We clearly have that. It has to have relevance and value to the decision makers. I think we all understand the relevance and value. You have to have a leader, a company, and the leadership of the company, Ragy and Carlos, who are willing with their team to take that risk. And then you've got to have lighthouse customers who get it, who are willing to stand up and say, here's what's possible. Customer expectations are changing at tremendous speed. Carlos' daughter is no longer the exception. She is the norm. And the ability to listen to that across breaking down the silos, which is the key reasons digitization doesn't work, is a must for the future. They're changing expectations. Timing being too early is just as bad as being too late. You've got to hit the inflection points as a company to break away or to keep from getting killed. And vision and strategy is important, but as my engineers remind me, execution's for professionals. It has to be both. It's outlining a vision and strategy, and then what can occur execution-wise. Why my decision to be honored to be an advisor to Sprinklr? First, Carlos has been my friend for 25 years. But he asked me multiple times, and I said, Carlos, I love you, but you're in New York. All of a sudden, he set me down, and I listened to what was possible. I met Ragy and understood what his vision was, and his vision is amazing. He wasn't talking 3 people when he started this company. He envisioned this day years ago. He doesn't envision today of, it isn't it exciting to have 1,400 companies as customers. He envisions a day where this will create an industry, has the courage to outline it. It is clearly the market transitions we've talked about, and it's in an inflection point where the customers, where the citizens need this on a global basis. The leadership is there. They have the right lighthouse customers in terms of references, and they have the right vision and strategy, in my opinion. And their competitors, much as we saw at Cisco, our competitors let us become number one in routing, switching, video, the internet capability, voice, cloud, digitization. And by the time we combined them in architectures and everybody stayed in silos, it was game over. Because we had very few barriers to entry other than how fast we moved and how we tied the products together. So that's what I see here. You can look back if we execute successfully, and if you have the courage and the belief to say, I'm going to bring this to my company, and we're going to lead, as this was the time an industry segment was formed. Customer expectation management. How many of you believe that it's going to happen? How many of you don't? I expect you to raise the hands because that's part of what's important is to always be transparent. I know they're doubters. But it is a belief that can happen. The difference is you can play a key role in making it happen. Wouldn't it be cool 5 years from now in your company to look back and say, I started this major digitization move with the area that had the most impact on our survival, how our customers viewed us, and you and your team made it happen. It's exciting, isn't it? It won't be without pain. It requires courage, and when you get knocked down, understand why you get knocked down and get back up. How many of you have seen Sleep While You Were Sleeping, the movie? Somebody says you had me at yes. Well, I was a little bit more difficult to get signed up. When they showed me the architecture, however, of how they approach marketing and how they break it into all these individual categories, which almost every company has different vendors for each product, and how that architecturally plays together, and then how this goes over to customer services with the same capability and over to e-commerce with the same capability. And then the telling source was many people talk about architectures, but even Cisco with our 180 acquisitions, and we do it better than anyone else, we didn't have the courage to do what you all have done here at Sprinklr. When you acquire a company, you rewrite the code immediately to a single platform. Sounds easy. Huge competitive advantage. Your peers are coming at you in siloed products within marketing, siloed products within services, siloed product and in commerce. And even if they do acquisitions, they don't even integrate the products together, much less rewrite them to common architecture. That's when you had me, not at a low, but on architectures. And the courage, remember what Cisco does? I've seen this movie 6 or 7 times before on transformations ourselves. Market transition, clearly here. Customer driven, you all know it's clearly here. Architectures, that's what innovation is about. Now, as you think about this reorganization, however, I want you to take the step back. What we just described was the easy part, the technology. And if Sprinklr does their job right, and I think it is about execution, but the vision and strategy is solid, the execution so far looks very good. That will be the easy part. In your organization, you've got to think about organization, culture, how you break down the silos, how you change who gets rewarded and who doesn't. And that includes all the way down to compensation. That will be the hardest part. And that's what any CEO would tell you. So you want to go in with this understanding and get that issue on the table. Merely connecting 500 billion devices doesn't do anything for you. It's getting the right information at the right time for the right person or the right machine when they talk to your customer to interface to them where they walk away saying that's the best customer experience ever. What it really is about is combining this with what I used to consider bureaucracy, process, and I was wrong. Process done right enables speed of implementation. Process is about architectures and a replicatable process that goes with it to achieve your goals. So that's my view of why Sprinklr, why this industry is poised with the potential, assuming they execute well, and candidly you all believe in and you execute well in your companies, to be the example of how this completely changes. What I'd like to do at this time is to take a step back and to give you a chance to ask me any question you want. And don't ask a question you don't want a direct answer to. Anything's fair. This is how all of us learn. So who's going to ask the first question? Let me have a mic if I can and 2 mic runners. If you'll grab the mics, and I'll have one as well. So the first question is always very hard to get. Can I have a volunteer somewhere? And if you don't have a volunteer, you go over to somebody in the audience you like. Somebody with a Nike shirt on their shoulder. Oh, no, I've already got this. Nike shirt. Why did you all decide on Sprinklr?
Well, it's actually a really long journey, but there was a lot of criteria that went in. I think at the end of the day, the decision-making came down to partnership and the ability to build something together.
What's the one thing you want Sprinklr to do better? Because this partnership isn't just about the good. What's the one thing that we have to do better?
That's a hard question. I thought we were supposed to ask you the question. I think the one thing they can continue to do is really lean into directionally where consumers are going and where business has to move. So I think being an advisor is a critical element to delivery of the platform they're building.
I would agree. Keep pushing us on terms of how to do it. Question over here. Other questions? Hold up your hand and we'll get the mic runners with you. Please.
So you talked a lot about de-siloing the organization and bringing the different teams together, and obviously having an executive on board makes a big difference with that. But when you have different teams in different locations physically all over the world serving different purposes, how from a communication standpoint do you get everyone singing from the same songbook and not miss out on a lot of the side conversations that happen in person from being physically in the same room?
Cisco telepresence and collaboration. Next question. I couldn't resist it. Oh, I think I'm funny. The way you've got to do it, and this starts at the top, you've got to have common dashboards that says, here's what's expected. And the leaders of each group have to say, here's what the overall goal of the company is, here's how marketing fits in it, here's how customer service fits in it, and here's how sales does it. And you've got to share that you have to break down the silos and you expect the communications. Technology can enable that, but culture is actually the key inhibitor. But it has to be articulated at the top, and then each of the groups has to get away from politics of the past and realize it's based upon how the groups work together will determine your survival. That's why I like the word survival. Even more important than growth is if you don't change, you will get Ubered. And people are beginning to understand how quickly this can happen by market. Does that make sense? Please. Then we'll go over here next. Yeah.
Hi there,
Hi.
Jessica. I
Jessica.
am a marketer that sits in HR, so I like
You know, I always worry about a person sitting in the back of the room because that's where I used to sit when I wanted to ask a tough question. Figure the presenter couldn't hardly see me, and if I wanted to step out, I could. What I do when I see that potential question coming hard, I walk up to that person. I figure out what's going to be on their mind. I want to soften them up a little bit. Harder to ask a tough question when you come up here. Put your arm around them. You got a firm grasp. They can't run. Go ahead. What was the question?
So I'm a marketer that sits in HR. I liked what you had to say about the silo, and I'm
Anytime
wondering.
anybody says that nice, you're about to get zinged on the question.
No,
so here it comes.
not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
So I wonder how you have partnered with HR in the past for a few things. Number one, on that culture transformation, and number two, as the candidate experience is so closely related to customer experience and expectations, how you've partnered with HR.
Yes. You know, it's a great question. And one of the things about me, you'll find I'm pretty transparent. Sometimes we've done that well at Cisco, sometimes we've not. The current HR director is very good. Carlos and I have been through some that were very good, some were not. But when we do it right, it isn't HR. The group that used to be called HR is about culture. Now, if we also do it right, we interview 10 candidates for each one we hire. So how do you leave all 9 who didn't get hired with a good experience as well? And the answer in part is also you go and look at impartial scores on how did you treat people, what did they view, and don't argue, well, that was wrong. You use numbers, and you've already figured me out pretty well. I measure everything that moves. And as long as it's measured consistently, it doesn't matter if it's completely accurate, but you can get the trends, then you can see your changes in customer satisfaction. You see the changes. You see the same thing for your own people. And what I've been very proud of in an industry that averages double-digit turnovers, our average voluntary attrition has been 5%. And out of the companies we acquired, talk about level setting and HR doing a very good job, or if you will, culture doing a very good job, industry averages 20% turnover the first 4 years. We average 4%. But it is the ability to make that a priority. What do people focus on? Whatever the CEO asks them to focus on and then is willing to put their energy into review. So it's the ability to do that and make it forefront. Some of your organizations, I believe, really treat people as they should be. I know every illness in the company of every employee, every spouse, every child that is life-threatening. I was on the phone. Unfortunately, it was a bad weekend. We lost an 11-week-old young child that we've been working with for 5 weeks to see if we could turn it around. Another friend passed from cancer. But you treat your employees just like you do your customers. When do they need you the most? When they're in real trouble. That's where you build relationships. I don't think there's another company in the world that does that. And that contributes a lot to how we believe as a company and how we direct it. But some companies will believe that, some will not. What you want to do is go back to it will determine you survive or not. And realize there are parts of the culture you can't change. Yes, sir.
In a multi-generational workforce, how do you catalyze that culture shift to make sure that everyone's utilizing the tools for collaboration?
Yeah, a lot of the time, the people in your organization, regardless of their age, and we aren't talking about age here for a reference point, some of us people with more experience are very quick to use technology. Just a little bit of humor. You'll get used to it by the end of the discussion. But what you have to do is to combine the best of both worlds. And then whatever collaboration tools the CEO uses, guess what? Everybody else will use the same ones. So we combine the collaboration tools that are pretty exciting that allow us to communicate not with just video everywhere to any device, not just telepresence, but all the way down to an iPad or an iPhone, but also the capability to use Spark and the capability to have a constant meeting on your key issues and drive it through. So once again, you enable a company's vision and culture by how you enable technology. And then you also have to tell people technology is the future of our company, period. And we will be a technology company first, a retail company second. Took Walmart 5 years, but they were painful 5 years to make that transition. Doug gets it, and Lee Scott knew it. But it takes a while to change. Please.
Okay, I can understand how Microsoft or Nike or Cisco can digitize.
Okay.
I'm the CEO of a company of about 50 employees.
Yeah.
And we happen to be in a really unique space with not much competition. But are we too small? Where in the world do we start?
Well, the exciting part is that, and I'm writing a book now. That's one of the things I'm focused on because I wanted to talk about lessons for the future, is the small companies can move with the speed the larger companies cannot. And you can build your base. Remember when I joined Cisco, it was only 400 people. And the startups, Ragy had a vision when there was 3 people. I actually think the small companies have an advantage versus the bigger companies because you don't have the legacy and then you don't have things set in, but you could have the courage to change. And by the way, when you make dramatic change, don't kid yourself. You are betting your company's future. I just happen to think that if you're not willing to make that bet, you've already bet your company's future probably the wrong way. I do believe that you're going to see a company in the future that's multi-billion in sales with a CEO and a chief digitization officer who's probably a combination of a CIO and a marketing service lead. And they'll outsource everything else. Now, you know where I'm going. If you're going to beat that model, you've got to break down the silos in your group, common architecture between the exchanges that allow you to move with speed, not. But I think actually the smallest companies will benefit from this more than the larger companies. And I do believe when you talk about 25 to 30 million jobs in this country, they will all be created by startups, small to medium business. Unfortunately, the large companies will probably not add headcount in total over this next decade, especially when you realize 40% of them would disappear. So I think the future is about small to medium business. And by the way, that's true of every country around the world. So I think you should lead and be creative on this, and that's how you grow, or that's how you are able to compete against the giants of the world as well as your small peers. The minute you think you haven't got competitors, if you're making profits, you're going to have competitors. They'll find you. Please.
I had the privilege of writing for your Cisco magazine many years ago.
Thank you.
In the area of customer loyalty.
Yeah.
So speaking of books, I've got
do we walk the talk, as I said?
Yes.
Okay.
And
because if you said no, we were just going to block you in and we're going to have a conversation.
I had a great editor there. It was a very great experience for me.
Yeah.
I am about to release a new book called Women Make Great Leaders.
Awesome.
I would wonder if I could send you the manuscript to review for a possible quote.
Yeah, if the answer is yes, and if you'll buy a Sprinklr and think about getting closer. It's something I have a huge amount of passion for. As Carlos knows, I required every manager in Cisco almost 4 years ago to read Sheryl Sandberg's book on leaning in. I actually thought she was too tough on the women. And when I told the team it was not a question, well, that you read in, I looked at the men and said, this is for you. Because you have to make those changes. If you look at GDP growth of a country, it's nothing more than the amount of capital investment you make. It's nothing more than the amount of resources, new job-creating resources you have, and it's about innovation. If you're not using 50% of your population, i.e. your female population, and you're only using half, then you are operating at a disadvantage versus everyone else in the world. And so I think the more we make this inclusive, the better it is. I'm hugely passionate about this topic. I'm even doing schools, unfortunately, in France, because they're way ahead of us. Can you imagine the U.S. saying, create a class for 10 to 14-year-olds that's based on diversity, that will get them excited about solving the world's problems, about starting companies and understanding how businesses occur, and about technology. And by the way, I want you to focus on diversity and gender. And if you do it, we'll give you 10,000 students, 100,000, 500,000, and all 3.2 million of our young people. And they'll do it in 2 years. What are they doing? They realize the future is about getting education where people have a chance to participate in these new jobs. Send it to me. I'm making no promises. And if you want direct feedback, I will do that as well. Okay. Maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Please, here on the front row. Go ahead. I'll get it and I'll repeat it. The nice thing is if somebody gives you the question, others can't hear it. If I want to rephrase the question, I can do it and nobody knows it. Okay.
That's what I do too. I don't answer the question asked. I answer the question I wanted to be asked.
Exactly.
So we're on the same page.
Okay, I got a mic for you, so thank you.
Thanks, John. I'm Jill Rowley. I think that marketing is eating sales.
Okay.
And marketing is managing a greater percentage of the customer's buying experience than ever before. Why is it that sales leadership isn't part of the digital transformation conversation? Why is it that it's always the CIO, the CEO, the CMO, the CDO, the Chief Experience Officer?
Yes.
Where is the Chief Sales Officer in the digital transformation conversation?
It's a great conversation to have. Carlos, what's the answer to that? I can tell you what it was at Cisco. My sales organization and the engineers were the strongest cultures, and I'd always go to the others that wanted to change. In our organization, we sell digital transformation, yet our own sales force is hesitant about changing. So I usually try to pick the low-hanging fruit that has a group that will be the sponsor in the direction. But I also would argue marketing changes more rapidly than any other segment of the business. And interestingly enough, services does right behind it. Sales often follows third or fourth, and engineering, we expect them to see the future. So I don't know why that often is the case. I do know, however, that the amount of budget going out of the IT department, the fastest growing area in a company is marketing. I'm not sure that would have been the case at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was not 5 to 10 years ago. So it does speak that consciously, and the best way to know what a CEO really thinks is where do they spend their money. Marketing is often going to be leading in this transition. But the CEO and the Chief Digitization Officer needs success. Because when you do something that is different than your culture, when you do something that is new and change, how many people like change? Oh, yeah. Are you married, sir? Did you ever think about changing your spouse? Did she ever think about changing you? Yes. Yeah, so you know where I'm going. Here is the best relationship you have in the world, and you merely mention change, and you're sweating. Change makes us all uncomfortable, and you've got to understand that. But the prospects of not changing has much worse consequences. So today my goal was to outline a vision of what was possible, to position the follow-on speakers about how do we build upon this, to share with you why I think Sprinklr and literally focusing on the customer experience management has the potential not just to launch, but to create a whole industry segment here. I want to thank you for joining us today. It's truly been an honor, and I hope I made you uncomfortable as well as got you excited. Thank you very much.
Wow. Rob, I got pictures. I got pictures of him. I had nothing to do with it, Rob. So look, a couple of things. I kind of forcing myself to try to extract a couple of messages out of every speaker. And the bad news is there's like 1,000 messages that I can probably deliver on John's talk to you. But a couple things really came out. And you know, the one that came out that I kind of knew, but, you know, he kind of reinforces, you need to get your CEOs to see the changes that are coming and where they need to go. That's one thing. The bad news of what I heard is that you need to be the champions inside your company. And I say bad news because it's going to take a lot of courage, especially if your CEO is, kind of, to use his words, arrogant. So that makes it a little bit harder. I think the other thing that I took away, and I love the de-silo. Who said the de-silo? Raise your hand. Anybody? I love it. I'm going to coin that one. Thank you. We'll give you credit with an asterisk. But the de-silo, because you can't deliver it. And the last thing I took away from him, because, you have all the vision in the world, but unless you implement it, you don't get to be able to really realize the results that you're looking for. And I think he said three things that were very interesting there. One of them was, we all understand it's tech. You got to do, if you're not leveraging technology, you're not going to get there. But I honestly think that's kind of the easiest of all the things we got to do. The other one he said, which is compensation. I thought that was a really, really, really thing. How do you get people to do what you want them? Is recognize, measure, and pay them for the outcome that you're looking for. So I think there's an opportunity for all of us to take away as we try to transform and force change. How do we compensate and recognize people for that? And then the last piece of it, which was very, very interesting, is just that there's got to be a process. And that's a dirty word in most places, you kind of just try to get it done. But I think a lot of really thoughtful comments. I think a lot of really big insights. So once again, before I introduce the next speaker, let's give John one more big round of applause. So now we're going to take it one step further. And, I kind of semi-introduced Charlene already in my opening. But, Charlene to me is a early innovator and an early trendsetter in seeing the disruptive force of social. And again, I think one of my favorite books to this day is still Groundswell. And frankly, Charlene, a lot of my thinking and a lot of the things that I ended up talking about were actually based on her book. So she's going to bring it down to, I think, things that we'll connect a little bit more on, specifically around experience. And, she does a lot of consulting work. She founded Altimeter. Now she's part of Profit, which is one of our partners. And I can always tell you it's always insightful to spend time with her. And the last thing I'll say, I always learn things about people, not only when you meet them one-on-one, but when you have the privilege of meeting their family. And I had the great honor not only to spend time with Charlene, but with her son, Ben, in New York when they visited our office. And I have to tell you, not only is he wickedly smart, took after her mom, but very, very humble, very kind kid. And we'll be off to college soon. Hopefully in New York. If he is, I'll take good care of him for you, Charlene. Please put your hands together and please welcome Charlene Lee.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you, John, for that great start. When I think about all the challenges facing organizations today, I think one of the biggest ones is how do you create a strategy around all of these ideas? You've got market transitions, you've got culture, you've got a CEO who kind of thinks that he knows what she is doing, but probably doesn't. And you've got all these customers who are changing so rapidly. The common theme, I think, here is that it's change, as John was talking about. But more importantly, I think it's really about disruption. And we think about disruption and change as something that's painful. And guess what? It absolutely is. But that's the only way that you can drive exponential growth. I'm not talking about, just whatever everyone else is doing, just a little bit better than everyone else. I'm talking about market-shaping, market-killing growth. Because if you're not growing, guess what happens? Status quo. It's hard to attract talent because people aren't necessarily looking for the best pay. They're not looking for the best brand. They're looking for opportunities to grow themselves. And those opportunities are provided at organizations that are growing exponentially. So if you want to be creative, you want to be out there, and creating an enterprise and an organization that people want to be at, to be thriving, it's no longer enough to just do a good job. You have to actually think strategically of how to be disruptive. So this is the current research that I'm working on. I'm working on a new book around disruption strategies. And as part of that, an immediate research that I'm about to publish in the next month or so is really around customer experience strategy. How do you actually create an experience around this? And not just around any strategy, one that actually is thinking about the next generation of customers that you will have to serve and serve extremely well. And the biggest problem my research has uncovered is this. How do you keep a mindset of the change that's coming out into the future and at the same time deliver on the results you have to every day, every week, every quarter in order to keep the business alive? How do you do both at the same time? Many organizations do this. They take the innovation team, stick them in Silicon Valley. They take the innovation team because they don't think that this organization is capable of change, because change is too hard, change is too difficult. Well, guess what? That's how you have to be. You have to be thinking about disruption, not just a small group of people, because you'll never be disruptive. You look at all those companies that John showed, what's the key thing that ties them all together? Every single person at that organization, from the CEO to the person sitting at the reception, is thinking about disruption. Now, how do you do this? How do you keep in mind that future and also that today? Well, the number one thing that we have found in our research is that there is an obsession around customers. And it is a complete obsession where every single person is thinking about that, because that's the only way you can align what you're doing today and tomorrow. It's because you're thinking about the customer today and the customer of tomorrow. So here's my question for you. Just a show of hands. How many of you here are involved in creating the customer experience at your organization? Just a show of hands. Okay. Quick show of, just raise them really high. I want to see all the hands that are up there. Okay, put them down for a second. Every single hand should be up. Every single person here has to be thinking that you are responsible for the customer experience. Because this is the key. If you are not focused on the customer experience, you are working on the wrong thing. Let me say again, if you are not focused on the customer experience, you are working on the wrong thing. Because the customer experience forms the foundation for everything that you do. Everything. From product to finance to supply chain management to human resource, everything has to be focused on the customer. And if you aren't, then you're working on the wrong thing. Now, how do you think about this? Because you're thinking, my organization is really far away from that kind of thinking. It really is the domain of a few number of small people. Only a small number of people have the permission to do this. So how do you get started? Well, let's take apart the word customer experience. Well, we oftentimes think about customer experience as touch points, right? It's some place where you touch a customer at the register, virtually. It could be the sales requirements that you're having to meet. We're thinking about things in very specific ways. Well, that's one level of customer experience. But let's think about customer experience in a different way, too. Maybe it's journeys. We map the customer journey. We do lots of good research. We think about how people are moving through the buying process, how we have to change the selling process to make it more seamless. Is that what customer experience is about? I think it's more than that. So we've got touch points that add up to a journey. But I think customer experience in the end is this. It's relationships. And if we don't think about customer experience as building relationships at this level, at a temporal level that travels over time, we're not thinking about it in the right way. And when we're thinking about creating a strategy around customer experience, we're fundamentally thinking about how do we create and shape a relationship with customers. And if that relationship with customers is going to drive your disruption strategy, you need a strategy fundamentally around customer experience. So my definition of a next generation customer experience is a set of coordinated moves, because that's what strategy is, what you will do and what you won't do. Because I believe the art of focus is the art of saying no. So what will you say no to? A set of coordinated moves that create customer experiences that result in relationships, but also result in business outcomes. John talked about business outcomes and business results as a foundation for strategy. And so oftentimes we think about customer experience, well, did they engage with us? Did they follow us? What's the completion rate of this particular journey? Those aren't necessarily business outcomes. And we don't even think about relationships oftentimes as business outcomes. How many of us even know how to measure a relationship to tell whether it's healthy or not? So when we think about customer experience, if you think about it in the context of relationships and how you strategize and measure and invest in the right places, that is a strategy for customer experience. So I'm going to talk today about three things. How do you prioritize? How do you decide what things to invest in, what's worth it or not? What are the capabilities you have to develop inside of your organizations to deliver that strategy? And then finally, we'll look at a few quick case studies. So let's start first of all with priorities. How do you think about the priorities that need to be done, what you will do in your strategy to create those deep customer experiences? Well, let's take a look at some research here. This is from the Economist Intelligence Unit. And they asked consumers, those 10% of consumers who say companies are actually doing a good job or not a good job, we asked them, what are the key things that you expect? What are the most important elements to you around customer experience? And see at the very top, fast response to inquiries or complaints, simple purchasing processes, ability to track orders in real time. These are what I call table stakes. You've got to do these well. And then there are all these other things down below. So when we think about delighting and bringing joy to customers, that all doesn't matter. Because if you can't do these basic things, then you don't have a good customer experience. You can't build that deep relationship that's built on trust. Will you deliver consistently every single time on my expectations? Well, the fact of the matter is, building ease and easiness into that relationship, into that experience is really, really hard. And we tend to shy away from those things. We know we've got to fix this one problem over here or that problem over there, but it's just hard, so I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather deal with all of these bright, shiny new objects and technologies like AR and VR and IoT, but you haven't fixed the fundamentals. So before you can do any of those things, go ahead and experiment with those. If they really help you address those core issues, then use them. But use them in the service of really delivering what customers want. And they just want to be able to do business with you. You want to make their life easy. And frankly, easy is really hard. So the question becomes, should you be trying to delight your customers? I love this next picture because it's Dick Van Dyke trying to give his wife a beautiful necklace. He thinks it's going to delight her, and she's like, I don't think so. So we oftentimes think our customers want all this red carpet being rolled out to them. A friend of mine went to a car rental agency recently, and he was saying, I just wanted to rent my car. I saw the car over there. They came out, greeted me, told me all about the car, and told me about all the great experiences. I just wanted to get to my car. Can you get out of my way so I can get to my car? The car rental company was trying to delight that customer. In the end, was just absolutely annoying him. Trying to bring joy to that experience and not understanding and really understanding what those needs were of that customer at that time. I oftentimes think that the customer experience that our customers want is frankly just to be left alone because I'm pretty happy. Can you understand that engagement means also understanding when I don't want to be engaged and respecting that? So when you think about next generation, it's not about delighting and creating experiences. When I started the research, I thought this is what it was about. And what I've realized in the research now, that next generation is not about the delight part. It's really thinking about the next generation of customers and the next generation experiences that they will want. And it's, again, all around the fact of the matter of making it easy, making it so delightfully utilitarian, and making that experience work and building that relationship. So here are some before and after looks at what traditional customer experience and how it's being created and next generation customer experience. So you've got things like personas and segments, and those are great and helpful in thinking about things at a high level. But the reality is next generation customer experience will be delivered on a personalized and very intimate level. I will feel like it's personalized, like you know who I am. When I walk in, it'll be like walking to the bar at Cheers. Everybody knows my name. That's not the case today. You don't even know who I am. I have to repeat it 5 times. Like Carlos was saying with the insurance company, who am I? Can't you tell I'm calling on my cell phone that's unique to my account? Why can't you know who I am? Basic things here. We think about linear processes. In the future, we already know this, it's highly unpredictable. There are so many parts of the journey that you can't see that are on competitor sites, that are even on other sites like Amazon and Uber, which are determining and setting expectations for what the experience will be on your site. We're thinking about a strategic focus rather than a customer experience focus that's focused on optimizing things. You can go on, but the key thing here is that creating experiences in the future is going to look fundamentally very different than the way it looks today. So how do you actually begin doing this, creating a strategy for this? And I think one of the fundamentals is to explain why customer experience matters to the organization. This is where you think about customer experience strategy overlapping and being aligned with business strategy, aligned with your brand strategy. All too often, I find that customer experience kind of sits over here. Their initiatives, their touch points, they're not tied to business outcomes and to the business strategy. I love this quote from one of the chief experience officers I talked to. And this person reported to the CEO. And all of the marketing, sales, and customer experience functions reported into the CXO, a very different kind of situation. Once it became clear that customer experience strategy was central to the 10-year plan of the organization, suddenly everybody was interested in it. Before then, before the CEO, before the leader set this as a priority, it was something that was a nice to have, a nice to do. But when it became the central premise of what the organization stood for and the promise it had to the organization, it suddenly became everybody's job. Let me give you one small example of this. They've been in the news lately for not the best reasons, United Airlines, but I think one of the things that they did was recently a friend of mine was explaining how he was online on the site and was doing a website, was signed in, he's a 1K member, was trying to figure out something, couldn't quite figure it out. So he picked up his mobile phone and called in. And the person is very kind because they can see that this is a 1K person along with a mobile phone. So, hello, Joe. Thank you for being a 1K member of United. I see that you were just recently on our website looking at a trip. Are you calling about that trip? That's incredible. I don't know how many of you feel about this way, but when I heard about that, I went, wow, that's cool. Now, this is a pretty recent thing because the new CEO said, instead of thinking about cost cutting, we really want to think about all the experiences that we can do to just make it easier for customers because we made it so hard for them. They go find a couple of these examples. So they found this one example and said, how can we make those connections between those silos? They had different databases, different things. Can we just make this one thing work better? What was the result? You had one customer, high frequent flyer miler, being delighted for being able to just do simple basic things. So these small moves can make a big difference. So the key to the strategy is to find those small moves because you can't do the big moves if you haven't done the small moves. Think about how they can add up to make a big difference in what that experience looks like, to make things easy for your customers. The second thing I want to talk about is capabilities. And you've heard this before from John. I do believe that culture eats strategy for breakfast every single day. And that you could have the most beautiful strategy, but if you do not have a culture that can execute on this, it's not going to happen. Now, the question I get oftentimes from organizations and from leaders, even CEOs, is, culture is really hard to change. I mean, but frankly, my company's like an aircraft carrier. I can't turn it. Well, I want to talk about aircraft carriers because I had the opportunity of being on one a couple years ago. And they were at the end of their training session. These are, just so you understand what's on an aircraft carrier, it's 5,000 18 and 19-year-olds Ever try to tell an 18-year-old what to do? I have one. And so the thing is, at the beginning of this training session, the captain would say, okay, starboard turn. And things would kind of fumble along, and eventually they figured how to make it work, and they would turn the ship. After 6 months at sea in practice, I was on there, and it was a final test. They decided to run a surge, meaning that they were shooting off on the front of on the bow of the ship 100 planes an hour and landing them on the back. 100 planes an hour. That's less than a plane every minute, taking off and landing. They were also resupplying the ship from 3 other different crafts, flowing alongside at full steam on this ship. So there were supply lines going back and forth, and there was an entire armada of other ships supplying and supporting the aircraft carrier. And the captain, guess what he does? He goes, everything's going pretty well. Let's turn the ship. He calls for a turn, and they executed it flawlessly. What was the secret? Well, you can talk about hierarchies and chain of command, but a couple different things. They trained every day on how to work together as a team, and they worked on different objectives, and they were mission-focused on things that they did. But also there's this little secret underneath it, too. The pilots fly, but they also manage departments. And so in their off hours, they do double duty. They manage a different department around the ship, partly so that they can learn how a ship operates, because the captains are always pilots. But also when they get into the pilot rooms, they start talking to each other. So they didn't tear down silos. What they started doing was to build windows between the silos. And I think that's the key here. When you're trying to change a culture, you don't do it overnight. You've got to start training, and I think about it as cross-fitting an organization. CrossFit is when everybody goes into a workout, everybody does the same exercise. My friend over here might be working out with 50-pound weights. I might be pushing a PVC pipe. But after a few weeks, I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to be stretching myself, so I grow, and I get stronger, and more capable, more confident. My friend now is going to be doing 55-pound weights. I'm going to be doing 10-pound weights. But I'm getting stronger. I'm getting more confident. I'm building connections with the other people who are doing the exact same exercise. So when you think about changing culture, there's lots of different things you can specifically do and systematically do. So some of the things that we've been doing with organizations around digital transformation is, how do you change culture? How do you prepare an organization for customer experience and digital transformation in very specific ways? You talk about process. I so believe in process and structure, because what you're trying to do is to unleash creativity and, frankly, chaos. And what you're trying to do is to organize the chaos and direct it and funnel that incredible cannon fire into one direction. So it comes from process and structure and governance. I think about symbols and stories. One of the organizations we work with is Electrolux, and one of the things they did is they created a journey map. And they had a little symbol of what that journey looks like for customers, and it's in every single one of their marketing materials, a symbol of who they're trying to serve every single day. So what are the symbols, the rituals, the stories you can begin to tell about the type of culture you want to create? It requires knowing what kind of culture you have today and what kind of culture you want for the future. But I think another key capability besides culture is also this technology area. And I think technology is one of the enablers. It is not the answer, because if you don't have the strategy and the culture, the technology won't matter. This is the reality of what it takes to create a customer experience. And I encourage you to think about how to invest very thoughtfully and strategically in your platform. And this is what our research shows, what you need. You need to have that layer of a system of record that looks at not only your existing customers, but also of customers who you don't know who they are. You just know that they came to your site and then left. Who are they? Well, you have a relationship with them. What kind of experience are you going to build for them? What kind of insights and analysis, and most importantly, intelligence can you get from all of that data those customers are creating? How do you think about creating content? And finally, the engagement layer. All of this needs to fit together in one cohesive whole. Now, some organizations will piece this together from many different vendors. Some organizations will go with one solution. There's no right answer. The key is this has to be in service of your organization, and very importantly, your people need to be able to access this throughout the entire organization. So the governance, the structure, all that culture part needs to be figured out first before you do this. Because if you buy this and try to implement it into this whole without that strategy and culture, it will not be effective. Let's talk about a few case studies to close out here. One of my favorite examples, and I'm a big customer, is Sephora. So I figure many of the women here are nodding along with me. We love it. The experience is great. What I love about it is that I don't know a thing about makeup. And I don't have the time and patience to do it. And I can go in and I can immediately take my phone, put it into store mode, and be able to go find the products, find an expert, book something, and just do so many different things. And one of my favorite things about them is that they've made beauty accessible. And they obsess about this. So that me as a person who knows nothing about it, don't read any magazines, can feel confident about this. Feel like I know what's going on and have confidence in my choices and I'm not wasting money. And one of the most beautiful things they have is a very liberal return policy. Don't like it, tried it, used up half the product, they don't care. Bring it back. No questions asked. So this obsession around making beauty accessible is something that Sephora has really done up and down through our organization and across every single channel. Another example from a different industry is Piedmont Healthcare. One of the things they decided early on was to understand how do patients feel. They use NPS, and you see over here on the right-hand side just some of the NPS numbers that they share publicly with their customers, with their patients, and the community. They hold every single one of their sites accountable across many different dimensions around what the customer experience looks like. And they not only use NPS, but they use outside vendors too as well to measure what that experience is. And the thing they decided to obsess over was creating a seamless patient experience. And there are two places. One is when you're coming on board, and another time is when you're actually getting the billing. The actual patient experience in the room was pretty good, and they could start to manage that, but two ends of this organization, of that patient experience, wasn't well. And so this is a key focus for them, is how do we make this seamless, less painless, smoother, easier for the patients. And then one last example is T-Mobile. When T-Mobile, and this is one of the clients that we worked with at Profit, when they were beginning their overall disruption strategy, they were number 4 in the market. And one of the biggest problems that they saw was, like, how do we catch up to big players like AT&T and Verizon? And it was some really deep customer insight that they developed that understood that customers were really mad at their carriers. There was very little transparency. There was no authenticity. You were locked into a 2-year contract. And T-Mobile found an opportunity to do things in a very different way. And they had the confidence to pull the trigger on this because of all the customer knowledge and data that they were able to glean in terms of what people wanted in a relationship. So they came up with this strategy called, "This is why we're becoming the uncarrier." The uncarrier strategy was something they developed not just as a model. They hired a CEO who could execute and articulate that vision. They changed the product, they changed the delivery of the service, and very importantly, they changed how employees were going to deliver that experience in the store, online, in their customer service areas. And the results were stupendous. They were amazing because they see the highest level of customer satisfaction now in their category, incredible employee engagement, and the numbers you can see in terms of revenues doubled in the past 4 years and stock prices more than quintupled. So disruption strategies are absolutely possible, but they only work if you're obsessed about that customer experience. So here are a couple questions for you to obsess over. Who are your customers? What are their needs? The basic fundamentals. And we struggle with this every day. What role does your organization play in your customers' lives? How will you continue to meet and exceed those customer expectations? And the only way you can do that is to constantly renew your understanding of them. How do you help your employees build these emotional contracts with people? Emotions, intimacy, these are not words we typically bring into the business conversation. They absolutely need to exist because those are the foundations for relationships. And then what is the first thing that you're going to do when you get back to the office to become customer obsessed? You personally. This is not the organization, but it has to start with you. How will you become customer obsessed? the next day, tomorrow morning, in the next hour. Because I think in the end, it's really about focusing on relationships. The technologies, the touch points, the journeys, they will come and go. But that relationship with your customers is so precious. That's the thing. That's the focus that will give you that alignment that your organization needs to deliver these next generation experiences. I want to thank you very much for your time and attention. I will be around today and also doing an executive session later, but this is my contact information. I hope to talk to you more, and thank you again very much. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you, Charlene. Great job. Okay, we're going to take an intermission, 15 minutes, but before we do that, the power of social. We've been listening to the social channels. Several of you have said it's too cold. We're working on it right now. We're going to make it warmer. Okay, so the power of social. We'll see you in 15. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sprinklr founder and CEO, Ragy Thomas.
so good to see you. It's so good to see you all. You know, I've been waiting for this for 8 years, for this day. I knew this day would come, and it's amazing to see so many familiar people and faces right here. By the way, I hope you liked the video, and I hope you were paying attention. Were you? Did you see the video? I hope you like it, because that's the single most expensive video we've ever done. We're a startup. No, I'm kidding. The real reason I hope you like it, and the reason I like it is very personal. I spend a lot of time with the folks who made that video is this. I think in that video you're going to see, or you saw, the single most existential threat I think big companies are going to have. If you're an optimist, it's also the single biggest transformative opportunity in there. What did you see? A small company becoming a large company. And somewhere as you get bigger, the company loses its ability to be intimate. The founder, as he's building the first product, puts so much of himself into it. When the creator put the soul of himself or herself into a product, the consumer feels it. The inability for brands to listen, to engage, and to reach customers seamlessly, I think, is going to be the single biggest existential threat. I call it customer experience management. In the next half an hour or so, I want to tell you how I see it and what we can do, and a potential way to think about it, solving it slightly differently from how we've approached it so far. But before I do that, I have to tell you, when I stand facing big crowds, I feel the burden of time on my shoulders. It's an hour of my time, but there are about 550 people here. It's 550 hours that I'm about to consume. And time is the one thing that God gives us equally every day. The only thing that we get equally every day is the 24 hours we have. So I know it's very, very, very valuable. My job is not to entertain you. My job is not to lecture. My job is not for you to walk away saying, that was impressive. If you do that, that's not my objective. It's not what I'm looking for. My job is to make you think. In the next 25 minutes, that's all I want to do. I want to make you think. And to make you think about customer experience management and challenge you to probably look at it slightly differently than you did before, I have to tell you my story. Which, by the way, is our story, which, by the way, is Sprinklr's story. This is 2009. Yes, there was a conference called TwitterCon. And Twitter is here in town. There was a big deal. There was a big social media conference. And I watched a panel on stage. And I watched this wonderful person sit up there and talk about how Dell, as a company, was using social media to transform itself. And as she finished, as she was walking down, she walked down the steps. And I saw her stop and start talking to someone. And here's what I did. I walked up to her. I said, Stephanie, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? I will never forget this, because the guy she was talking to got really pissed. Because I did not say, excuse me, I just went at it. And I asked Stephanie, what are some of the things that you wish you could do with the tools that you currently have to manage social media that you're not able to? And she's a sweetheart. She rattled off, I think, 23 different things. And I called her, thank you. And I called her 2 months or so later, and I said, Steph, I have a product. Would you like to take a look at it? And she became client number 2, I think, or client number 1. I don't remember who signed the contract first. But Dell was one of our first customers. In our early days, this is what Sprinklr did. We had no sales, we had no marketing. We just had wonderful customers. And we talked to them all the time. We asked them what they wanted, and we built what they asked us to build. We took it back to them, took their opinion, and refined the product. The past 8 years have been amazing. One of our investors is in the room. I think Neeraj is here from Battery. There are charts that tell us that we're one of the fastest growing enterprise software companies of all times. The growth has been dizzying. This year, I guess we are going to hire 800 people for a company of 1,400. That's insane. And it's been amazing. The valuation has been going up. 1.8 billion sounds really good. We've grown up to 23 new offices around the world. It's been insane. But you know what is becoming harder as we scale? What's becoming harder is to take care of our customers the way we used to. What's become harder with scale is to feel intimate with customers the way we used to listen to them. We now have multiple product lines. We sell in over 20 markets. We have so many customer-facing teams. We have a demand generation team. We have a marketing team. We have an events team. We've got sales teams, solution consulting teams, legal teams, finance teams, enablement teams, success teams. You get the idea. Professional services teams. And we've been very, very choosy in hiring. Culture has been so important for us. We found people who really care. And I can tell you, every Sprinklerite that we have really, really cares about our customers. But it's become hard. It's become really hard. And I know many of you, as our customers, are on the receiving end of it. It's been painfully hard. It breaks my heart when I see someone unhappy. If my folks really care, if they are the good guys, who are the bad guys? If all of us want to do this, why are we not able to do this? Look, I'm an engineer. So I went out and chased. I wanted to find out who the bad guys are. Do you want to know who the bad guys are? I found 5 of them. Let's go. First one, disjointed data. Do you know my guys in every team knows something about our customers? A marketing team knows when the customer came to the website and what emails you opened. My customer care guys know what problems they have. My finance teams know about their budgets. My legal team knows how they're worried about compliance. But that data is staying within that team. Number 2, siloed teams. My guys want to talk to each other to take care of the customer. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh man, go get a collaboration system. I promise you, we have every collaboration system available in the enterprise space at our company. Okay, we got Skype, we got Slack, we got Facebook at work, we got Google Site, we got WhatsApp, we got everything. You know what the problem is? It lacks customer context. Number 3 is disparate processes. Enemy number 3. The bad guy. Disparate processes. My guys are the good guys. The problem is every team has their own processes. And they're not seamless for the customer, which is you. Number 4, point solution tools. I particularly hate this guy. You know why? He actually screws his reason the other enemies come together too. And trust me, as a small company, you'll be amazed at how many tools we have. My marketing team uses, I think, 23 different tools. Website, automation, data, scraping, oh my God, tracking. And the sales teams, I think, one of them. If I see one more Salesforce plugin, and here's the last guy, unintelligent technology. Look, I'm super sorry to say, I'm using some of the cutting edge stuff available today. CRM systems, CMS systems, website systems, all of that. I think they're freaking stupid. I really do. CRM is read data, write data. Retrieve data, type data, store data. What the hell is this? That's what like the latest and greatest systems do. It's fairly stupid. Look, these are the 5 bad guys, and we got to get around them. And if it's with 1,400 people, if it's this bad for me, I can only imagine how bad it is for you. With 40,000 people, 100,000 people, 400,000 people. This one is a quick slide. This is a big problem. This is a massive problem. This data, John's talked about it, Charlene referred to this. You all know this, right? Of all the companies that were on the Fortune 500 list in 2000, how many are still on that list? 50% are gone. And then by 2025, they say 40% of those who are left will be gone. I don't know about you, but think about this. You're about to go into a life-threatening surgery, and the doctor says, 9 out of 10 people I do the surgery don't come out on the other side. How does that make you feel? Why is this happening? And you know this stat, we talked about it. By 2020, 50% of the workforce is going to be someone who's born after 1980. It's a millennial. Do you think millennials write letters? Dear Mom. Do you think they pick up the phone and they call? Okay, they're sophisticated. You think they do email? You think they write text messages, don't you? They don't. 50% of the people who make money are folks who are going to buy your products and services, can be reached the way you're used to reaching them. What are you going to say? I'm not going to worry about that 50%. I got the other 50. Guess what? The other 50 is shrinking. They're getting older. Now, why are we not doing anything about this? This is what I don't understand. Why are we not doing anything about it? And I didn't know the answer until I kind of read about this story. Do you know what happens when you take a live, healthy frog and put it into boiling water? That's cheesy, right? Sorry about that. Look, it jumps out. But do you know what happens when you take a live, healthy frog, put it in cold water, and slowly but gently crank up the heat? Gently. A little bit. A little bit. A little bit. Do you know what happens? You get frog soup. I know why we're not moving. And I think we have to. We have to move. We have to do something. So let's switch to the solution side. When you want to solve something, what do you usually do? You go and see who else has done it. Growing up, I grew up in a small town in India. You know, when I showed up at the baker, he knew exactly what I was going to buy. It was Saturday morning or Sunday morning. And villages around the world have this story. I actually was telling this story to an executive of a client. If PMI is in the house, very senior guy. And he said he lives in a village outside of Lausanne in Switzerland, 950 people. He says he's so preoccupied, he shows up at the store and he forgets what he came to buy all the time because his wife would have told him and he had forgotten. But the guy behind the counter knew. And how do they do this? Do you think these people behind the counter are marketing? Are they selling? Are they doing brand stuff? They're just simply listening. They're simply engaging. They're simply taking care of, they're just responding. They're having conversations. But there's a second thing that's not obvious. You know why most small towns have great stores like this? Because it's essential to survive. Essential to survive. Can you imagine if that guy, the guy with the store in the local village, was an asshole? The bad guy, the mean guy. You know, everybody knows everyone. So what would happen is everyone would know very quickly and he won't survive. You know what we have evolved into? We have evolved into a village of 7 billion people. It's a very small, connected world today. 2.5 billion people are connected with their real identities. You can't be an asshole as a company. You can't get away with it. And Charlene talked about you have to be able to do it across channels. It's a super easy thing to solve, right? Conceptually, we know what to do. But how do you do this at scale? How do you do this at scale? Because things get fragmented when scale's involved. Now, one of my mentors taught me this very early. When you're stuck with a very big complex problem that you can't solve, he said to me, look for a solution in history. If you look at the past, you will find these patterns. Do you know where we have seen this pattern before? Of something that had to scale and got fragmented. Let me take you back to 1980s. What were you doing in 1980s, early 1990s? I want to take you and talk about this industry now known as supply chain management. Do you know how it looked in the late 80s and early 90s? It looked like completely broken and fragmented. We had warehouse management systems, transportation systems, procurement systems, planning systems, and every one of them had tons of point solutions. There was a cute Visual Basic program, and I had a mainframe solution for inventory management. I had an Excel spreadsheet for supply management. Didn't work. Do you know what happened in the 80s and 90s? There was a company called SAP, one of our partners. If you're in-house, hello? They went out and solved this. And I actually got lucky and I met with the board member of SAP. He was an older German gentleman. He was in our office. And I asked him, how did you guys do it? And he said, Ragy, we had a whole bunch of engineers and we wrote code for 10 years. We created all these modules based on the same product ID, based on the same supplier ID, and based on the same distributor ID. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Let me bring it back. And I think the similarities are very eerie. Today, we have a whole bunch of industries. At best, we call them marketing, advertising, research, commerce, care. And you know this. Whole bunch of point solutions and a whole bunch of different industries. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're looking at this all wrong. I think we need to start looking at it with a unified customer ID. That's why today is historic. I think once you start looking at it this way, you can't go back. And I know what some of you are thinking, Ragy, do you mean to say that Sprinklr is going to kind of do everything? Now look, I'm not 22. Done this before. What we're talking about is this. This is your world today. You've got a whole bunch of channels. You've got your business units. You got your market. You got your different teams. Every one of those teams have tools for different channels. You have a system of record, maybe for marketing. That could be your email system or your website system. You've got a system of record for research. That could be your survey platform. You would have a system of record for commerce. That could be your e-commerce system. For care, it could be a call center system. What we are talking about is an architecture that allows you to reach, engage, and listen across them. One that will tie to your point systems of record and gives you a system of record of experience. This is the second point I want to make. If this picture makes sense to you, I want you to take a quick look at the bottom. Do you see about 30 different channels? 30 different channels. Right? Phone, email, website, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Ren, QQ, WeChat. You get the idea. You have tons of business units and markets in all these teams, marketing, advertising, research, commerce, and care, that have to work together. If you have your social media management system correctly implemented and architected, you're already doing this. You're doing this across 23 channels, and you already you have your marketing, advertising, research, commerce, and care teams working across with each other, working across those silos, like Charlene talked about, opening windows. And you have it deployed at the enterprise level, across business units and across markets. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been thinking about social media holistically, now is the time to do so. Because social is and should be the foundation for your customer experience management. Social is and should be. I think it's inevitable. It's just a question of who. To tell you why I think it's inevitable, I have to tell you a story. This is a true story. The client may be in the room, so I will not name them. I was on campus at one of our bigger clients. And I go up top of one of the buildings where they have the marketing team, and we finished the QBR. We're going through the KPIs, and the KPI is, how many people did you reach? How many engagements did you have? This is, anything counts. A like, a look, a care, a share, anything. And then we do targeting, segmentation to find the best customers. And the KPI was try and reach as many as possible. And I remember looking at 100,000 one month, 125,000. And we're going high-fiving. This is awesome. My God, this is amazing. It was 75,000 and we went up. And this is awesome. We're doing a great job. And I come down, and my next QBR was with the customer service team that was also using Sprinklr. And I go up the elevator, chuk, up to the top floor where the head of customer care is sitting. And we go through the QBR. Do you know what his KPI was? How quickly can I turn people away? How quickly can I hang up my phone? Call center response time. And I go, wait, this makes no sense to me. On one side, you're paying people money to get attention. On the other side, you're turning your best customers away. How does that make any sense? Oh, they are existing customers. Excuse me? Who do you think is going to buy an iPhone 8? The guy who has iPhone 7. Am I right or am I wrong? Does it make sense? And who is likely to upgrade? People who use it frequently. How do you know someone's using something frequently? It breaks down. What do they do when things break down? They call customer care. And by the way, you piss that guy off in customer care. Guess what? He goes out and he posts on Facebook. He screws marketing up. And I'm going, shit, I'm marketing. You're screwing up, Mr. Customer Care. And I'm back over here. That's insanity of the first order, isn't it? Or is it me? Is it time for us to stop looking at these freaking silos, freaking industries? I know there's some analysts in the room, so please forgive me for saying this. We're not looking at it correctly. Screw the CRM category, CMS category, email category, SMMS category. Should we screw it? I think it's insane. I think the time has come for the inevitable to happen. For us to start looking at this as one freaking industry. We can put it up for vote. I think we should call it customer experience management. Charlene, where are you? Please, that should be your next report. State of the customer experience management industry. By the way, this is the biggest opportunity ever. As much as it's a threat, it's the biggest opportunity ever. Because if you think about your supply chain, or if you think about, by the way, it's not just the product, right? You've seen a more recent example of this with the employee ID. How many of you here know or have heard about a company called Workday? Raise your hands, yeah? Doing amazingly well. You know what they're doing? They're consolidating around the employee ID. It's the back office that's happening there. How big do you think the front office is? Customer-facing costs are compared to the back office or manufacturing. If you look at a company like Coke or Pepsi, what do you think the manufacturing costs are versus marketing costs versus sales costs? I know my company's numbers. I know how much we spend on corporate IT stuff versus what we spend in sales and marketing. Cost loaded. This is the biggest opportunity. For those of you who are involved in social media, here's your good news. You're already there. Those of you who are not, it's time to think about customer experience management. And today my ask of you is very simple. Join this movement. We can't wait for someone else to coin this. We got some of the best minds today here. We got the biggest brands. We got analysts. We got some press. We got the biggest consulting companies. What are we waiting for? It's our responsibility. This industry has to come together for us to define the models, define pricing, define roles, come up with training, and for the vendors to work together. And it's not going to be one platform or one vendor. All I'm asking you is to rethink your best of breed approach, unless you love doing 75 RFPs. You grow old doing RFPs. I'm asking you to think of this as customer experience management, where you go from best of breed to best of suite, where you have 3 or 4 big companies and our wonderful partners, IBM, SAP, and Microsoft. They're all here. Together, we represent 4 of, 7 big CXM companies out there. To form a quick ecosystem of 3 or 4 partners that can work together for you. Before I walk away, I'm going to do a weird hand thing. I'm going to tell you what it is. Well, I'm going to do it twice, okay? And then I'm going to tell you what it is, because it's kind of weird. My kids are watching at home. You know what we do when I pull out of the driveway every day as it gets a little far? We invented the sign language that says, I love you. So I do that. I want to do that for my kids. The first one's for my kids. The second one's for you. Thank you very much. You guys have been amazing.
Okay, technical difficulty. If you haven't noticed, I have one right now, but I think you can still hear me. So, I think Ragy
is coming from it from a very, very different point of view. I mean, as a founder I can tell you, he saw this day right from the very beginning. I can tell you 5 years ago, his story hasn't changed, right? And I think what we've been able to do, getting a lot of your input and working with a lot of you, is really get to the point where I think we've got a framework to be able to do those things. I do also like the concept of this is really a movement. We're all in it together. There's nobody, who is perfectly, doing experiences the way they should be. Maybe with the exception of Disney. You're there. It's a happy place. But, I think we all have an opportunity. And I think if we do it together, we're going to get to the destination and the journey, a lot faster. So what I'd like to do now is Ragy was talking vision, and he was talking, where we've been and kind of where we're going. But what I want to do is I want to bring up someone who's going to give you a little bit of a peek on some of the things we're doing and where we're going to help bring this experience to life. So without further ado, please put a warm welcome to Paul Herman.
Good morning. How is everybody doing? What Carlos failed to mention was I came to Sprinklr from a small company that has a swoosh on the logo from Nike. So you could just say, after working with Sprinklr for 4.5 years, I just did it. I'm here to talk to you about what we are going to do to help you take on the challenges of customer experience management. Let me start out by talking about something that we all know, right? We all know that markets are conversations, right? We engage, and we reach, and we listen, okay? We reach, we engage, and we listen. And we've heard from all the speakers that this world has changed. We live in the world of the connected customer. Social media has changed everything. The need to get those three things right for brands is more crucial than ever. As a brand, I want to be able to have conversations that are now digital. All right? I need to be able to reach and engage with you digitally. A lot of these conversations are now digital. So as a brand, I want to meet you. I want to get to know you. Right? And I want to hear what you have to say. Now, all of you, I love the energy that's in this room. We're meeting each other, right? We're getting to know each other, and we're going to listen to some really smart people share some really amazing things over the next couple of days. And what are you going to do? We hope, right? You're going to go, and you're going to share that, right? And that conversation, that spirit of digital evolution, that spirit of digital revolution is going to live on. And so what does this mean? What it means is that the world of digital, is a world of experiences. It creates experiences. So as I meet you as a brand, I need to figure out how to do that. How do I meet you across channels, departments, paid media, owned, earned? How do I get to know you as you engage with me, as you buy, and as I help you, and as I connect with you? And how do I hear what you have to say through insights that really enable what we call a hyper-personal relationship? It's the power of me that has to become the power of we. So how do we do this? How does this happen? How do we get this right? This is the crucial question that we are here to answer today. Welcome to the world of experience clouds. All right? The world, this industry is just beginning. Now, there's certainly some people who want to claim it. There's some people who say they've got it all figured out. But let's start. Let's just pause for a moment and let's figure out what is it going to take to get this right. What's it going to take to be able to do reach, engage, and listen in a cohesive and coherent way? let's start to unpack that. The first thing is we need a multi-channel collaborative marketing platform. What brands need is the ability to collaborate and reach current and potential customers across any channel. Social, apps, email, the web. I was talking to some people, and they said, we need the thing. We need that thing that is the marketeer's dream of bringing it all together. I want to see what's happening across all these channels. I shouldn't have to guess. It shouldn't be a quiz. So when teams get together and work together, they're better together. It's that simple. And when brands leverage their influencers and their advocates, reach is maximized. Now, marketing alone doesn't work in the world of social. We all know that. An integrated paid media strategy, an integrated seamless advertising platform is crucial to our success as well. When paid media is transparent, when brands and agencies work together to manage and manage audiences and target audiences, the spend is optimized. They can't be separate. You know, when I was working in my previous life, when we did this, the agency person literally said to me, "Oh my goodness, I feel so exposed." And I'm like, "I feel so enlightened. Thank you very much. I know what you're talking about. I know where my money's going. It's basically your money well spent. Your money well spent. You need to take control of that." All right. Next area is not hashtag Ask Carlos. I'm so sorry. Right? But you do need actionable embedded research. You need to be able to listen. So we've all heard the concept of content is king, right? Everyone's heard content is king? All right, let me try one on you. Content is king, yes, but context is queen. Okay? You know, I might say I'm the head of the house, my wife's the neck. Wherever the neck turns, the head turns, right? Context is queen. Okay? It is absolutely critical. A content strategy without an integrated research and listening strategy will always fail the goal of personalized communications. And we have to be listening. And it's amazing. You have such an opportunity. The world of social is your opportunity to listen. Right? All that data needs to be actionable. What we used to say, and I love this, is data needs to be democratized, not weaponized by those people who have it and who own it. Right? You don't need to make data to make a point. The data should be available to everybody, and listening has the ability to democratize data like no other time before. When you capture meaningful feedback to understand exactly what your customers say, how they feel, and you turn that feedback into emphatic, real-time service, you are going to win. Personalized, empowered e-commerce. If care is the new marketing, let me tell you, share is the new commerce. Right? People will buy based on things that their friends are saying. Actually, sometimes they'll buy based on things complete strangers are saying, which is incredible. You need to understand that share is the new commerce. I'll tell you a little story. I had the privilege of working with Facebook a number of years ago. We were working on a product, and I walked into the meeting room, and on the wall, there was a sign that said, "Think, market, share." And the market was crossed out. Think, share. Think, share. So important that we get this right. We need to unlock the power of social selling by influencing pre- and post-purchase decisions, bringing our products to life at every touch point, at every single touch point, and gaining valuable insights along the way. Empower social selling. Empower the power of the people who have the power today, which are your customers. And last but not least, knowledgeable, connected care. We said markets are conversations. There are people who are going to come and tell you a customer experience management system is all about marketing. Right? No, it's not all about marketing. Conversations are two-way streets. It's not about who has the shiniest megaphone, who has the coolest way to get stuff on social, who has the coolest way to get stuff on other digital channels. It's about who can connect. And a lot of conversations are starting with service, right? Here's another little story. I think the most important thing to realize, a lot of people will use the words, nobody serve me. Everybody heard that? Nobody serve me? Right? I've heard it a lot, and I kind of think it's the other way around. We went to a restaurant last night, great. I walked in, sat down, the waiter came over and said, what would you like to drink? I said, I'd have a Cabernet, it's great. If I was to go back again, a really, really good waiter would go, hey, welcome back. Would you like the Cabernet? Did I get a survey before I went to the restaurant to say, what Cabernet, what drink would you like? No. So the temptation is to try to do that, is to try to gather data, and then try to serve. I think service comes first. You serve to know, to make better. Right? Serve to know, to make better. And the only way to do that is to utilize this unified customer view. Ragy talked about it, a customer ID. The ability to bring together a unified customer view with contextualized conversations and case management, right? That's what's going to take it to the next level. That's what's going to make hyper-personalized premium service amazing. That's what it's going to take. Okay? So, we need all these. Marketing, advertising, research, commerce, care. Marketing, advertising, research, commerce, and care working seamlessly together. Right? We need the Sprinklr Experience Cloud. We are bringing all those together. So today, right here in Nashville, we're here to talk to you about the extensions of the Sprinklr Experience Cloud for marketing, advertising, research, commerce, and care. And we truly believe, because of the way Sprinklr was architected from the ground up, that this is the only pure-play customer experience management platform in the industry today. You know, when I was working in my previous life, we went out to a lot of companies, and you can understand a company from their DNA. Poke enough, ask enough questions, and the DNA of the company comes out. DNA of the vendor will come out. The DNA of vendor is crucial. And the DNA of Sprinklr lies in coming together and building these building blocks that we obviously did first in social and now are expanding beyond that. But the building blocks are absolutely crucial, right? How we do that is absolutely important. We spent years co-creating with clients these things. And some of them are in the room today, and thank you so much for helping us. Thank you for helping us to perfect the building blocks for things like enterprise-wide governance, for automation, for collaboration, for analytics, data flow, for process management, asset management, customer context management. These are all really difficult things, and we built it together. You all helped us co-create the first and only customer experience platform built for a social customer-first world today. That's something incredible. That's something that is amazing. So now we get to the part where it's a little, I'm going to ask you to kind of bear with me. It's a little complicated, and I'm going to break every Nike slide rule. So I'm sorry, so bear with me. But we started up here. This is important. This is the stuff that's really, really, really overlooked many times. Your platform has to have governance. It has to have an underlying architecture. It has to have processes. It has to have workflow. If I say to you ROI, what does it mean? Give me a shout out. When I say ROI, what does it mean? Return on investment. I would tell you right now, ROI also means risk of inaction. You have to have a governance engine to make sure that you don't fall foul to that risk of inaction. How do things get notified to me very quickly and in a timely fashion that I need to act on? So you have to have a series of you have to have a foundation that we're standing on, and then we can build. And the first thing we obviously built and we got known for in the market is social. Check. Everyone knows Sprinklr is the best social management system in the market today. We did that first. I'll tell you a little story. At Nike, we did that first too. We started out with social, and then we went beyond that. And so today, we're announcing these extensions on the Experience Cloud. It's a lot to absorb, and I'm really sorry. It's very complicated. Lots of people taking photos. That's good because I'm not going to go through every single one of them. But I'm going to highlight some key components here that is absolutely critical. So let's talk about the first thing. Let's talk about marketing. Let me highlight content marketing. This is something we built very closely with our partners. When I'm going back to that thing that was needed on marketing, we talked about you need a multi-channel platform to do marketing across everything, okay? Content marketing, just been released, really, really cool, right? Like paid media planning. Paid media planning and content marketing have to work together, right? It can't be like, we call them diving catches. It can't be, hey, I got this thing, can you boost it? And the guy gets a call on Saturday morning, he has to boost it on Saturday night. Who's all been there, right? Let's not do that. Integrated media planning. The other thing I wanted to highlight is location insights. How do we, and this is somebody was asking this the other night, so how do you mash up the physical world with the social world? Here's a good answer. Think about why can't we use intelligence, why can't we use listening technologies on a brick and mortar site to understand what is working, what's not working, how are the two things interrelated, what is the changing room experience look like with the shop, what's the connection? Why can't we use that? I don't have to have a focus group. Folks, the biggest focus group is at your fingertips. It's called the world of social. And they're very, very, very vocal. So you better listen to them. Right? How about shoppable galleries, right? How do we take consumer content and amplify it? Right, I'm probably the only guy going to present you today in a pair of decent sneakers. Sorry, right? I mean Air Max 90s from China, specific. Okay, they weren't counterfeit. They were like a specific model I wanted. So now think about it. I haven't got the greatest physique. I look like I just ate it, not just did it. Right? I get it. My wife tells me when I round my personality too much, she tells me lose it or name it. Well, I'm going to name it, right? But basically, if I'm putting up, if I'm going to post with me with a pair of with Nike apparel on, maybe some of you might relate to it better than the beautiful person, right? Shoppable galleries. If people are sharing content, then why can't we get up on the website and have people go, oh, I think I could rock that. Pretty cool. Right. Last but not least, something to highlight is brand care. Ragy spoke about it. We're getting into a new space, right, where the interaction with consumers is on a whole different level of channels. So we had to re-engineer and rethink the way we did care with a new UI that allowed us to get into a chat-like interface, that allowed us to bring things into an inbox, that allowed us to get that next level of personal service. So a whole new brand care. Okay? So what does this really mean for you? Like, what does an integrated, collaborative, unified platform mean for you? Right? As we bring this together in one experience cloud. Okay. Let's talk about it. This is the part where I've got a little bit of audience participation. Okay, so we talked a lot about no silos. We talk about disparate tools. Can you all say disparate? Okay, now say it really fast. It starts sounding like desperate, doesn't it? All right? When you say disparate fast enough, it sounds like desperate. And we got a lot of desperate people out there, right? We are trying to figure out how do we break down these silos. We're trying to bring out how do we break down this disjointed. How do we attack those enemies that Ragy talked about? Really important. But if we do it right, we will get the benefits of a unified collaborative platform. An underlying workflow for task management, consistent innovation, right? Real-time insights, automation to optimize efficiency, and integration to leverage your existing data and amplify it. You're going to get this right. So I've been talking a lot, and you've seen a lot of cool slides. Now, I was trying to figure out how do I tell the story, and how do I show what this would look like. And so I went out and I did a bit of Googling, and I found this company here in Nashville that it's a record label. No, I didn't. I just made it up. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about a record label, so bear with me. There's a record label out of Nashville. I was a little creative license, right? Flaming Hot Countries out of Nashville, but their agency, right? Creative agency sits in New York because they have one northerner in the company, right? Creative agency, sorry, that was a dig. Creative agency sits in New York, right? They're paid media agencies in San Francisco, okay? And they got their thing going. So let's talk about how would they do this, okay? So let's start. So the first thing we talked about is we're going to listen. This is the new Sprinklr. You've got care, marketing, advertising, research, insight, commerce, all in one single platform, right? The first thing I'm going to go I need to find out what people are saying about country, right? So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go into my listening tool, and I've set some things up, and I'm going to check out what's going on. Oh, I see on the left-hand side, driving tunes is coming up. Sorry, I gave Hillary a 0 there. It was too much fun, right? So driving tunes, right, is something that's coming up. Driving tunes is interesting. Well, but hold on. Well, that's interesting. Now, I need to find out who that is. Right? I need to make the data actionable. So I'm going to go find out, okay, who's talking about it? Great. I got a bunch of these people. And the simplest thing is I now can create an audience. The difference between active listening and passive data, I cannot stress how important this is. There are a lot of listening tools out there today. Check. How many of them are actually active? How many of them can you actually take action on? What I'd like to talk about is the difference between billboards and dashboards. When I'm driving down the highway, right, I see a couple of billboards, and that's interesting, but I want something when I put my foot down, something goes up. I want dashboards. I want to engage with my data. I want to create audiences on the fly. Now I've created my audience. Fantastic, okay? I'm going to go, okay, got it. I got to get something about trucks and tunes, trucker tunes. Sounds cool. Okay, now I'm going to create some content. So I go into my planner, right, and I'm going to start thinking about creating my content. When I get into the calendar, okay, great. I can see all my sorry about my digs at the songs about dogs that died. Carlos, but it would have been a good tune, right? So I'm going to go create my content, right, in my planner. So I get out there and I start creating my message, right? I get my juices going. Right, I'm going to get some content on there, right? And my clicker's working. Can we go next slide, please? Thank you. Right, I'm going to create my content, and once I've got my content up, I'm going to add some paid media, some media to it, right? Sprinklr Asset Manager. I'm going to go in, and I'm pick my image. Sorry, it's the love truck. Couldn't resist that either. Okay, country western music, love and truck always goes great together. Right? I've got my thing, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to select my channel. Now, quite honestly, the power of the platform means like this could be multiple channels. I could say, I like that image. I want to post it on Instagram. I want to post it on Twitter. I want to put it in an email. I want to put it on my app. I want to put it on it doesn't matter. We have to be channel agnostic. The things that we work on at Sprinklr are reusable technical patterns. You shouldn't have to make it different every single time. Now I've selected my account, and I'm good to go. Okay? So I can also, by the way, talk to that crazy team up in New York, my creative agency, and say, hey guys, what do you think? Is this working? Of course, the guys in New York have no clue about trucks, but that's okay, right? But I'm going to go talk to them and see how we're doing, okay? So now I've created my content, right? I'm going to go, well, there's this thing called boosting it. They told us we've got to do that. So I'm going to go into advertising. Who understands paid media in this room? Raise your hand. Now you know why I'm not going to go into it next, right? Because it's really complicated, okay? Right? But we've simplified it. Do not worry. But what I would do now is go and boost my post and tell those guys in San Francisco to get hustling, and it won't be some surprise on Saturday evening that we want to boost our post. Okay? Now my post has gone out, and people are starting to engage, and that's fantastic, right? So I'm going to click on care. I'm going to go into my agent console, right? And I'm going to understand what's going on there. So here's Roxy. Roxy says, I love trucker tunes, right? And so I'm going to go, whoa, she's on fire, right? So that was my best American accent. I'm sorry. Right? I have 3 kids, and they go, Dad, when you're talking like an American, you sound like you're from somewhere down way south. Okay, I can't do an Oregon accent, which is where I'm from. Not originally. So Roxy is, I want to go, what's up with Roxy? Like, what's the conversation, right? Now I click on it and say, okay, let's find out what's going on with Roxy. So I'm going to click on Roxy and say, okay, let's see the conversation. I talked to you about a chat interface. Well done. There's a chat interface. right? I can apply this to any type of conversation. I can see my past conversations with Roxy. I can see everything that I've captured about her. This is really important, right? If you're going to serve them, to know them, please take notes. Okay? You got to put some notes in there. You got to take some notes. Okay, so I've got my profile there. I can go in and I can say, okay, let's take a look and see, about Roxy. And so what cases has she had? Has she had any problems in the past? This is so important. Listen to me. You hear me clearly. You have to, that concept of a unified customer ID, you've got to bring all the data together. You've got to say, if a case started on Twitter and went to your app and then went to email, and it's got to come together. We can't have 50 first dates. Hello, hello, hello. We can't have that. Okay, customers do not expect that. Right? Let's not do that. So I've gone and I've checked my case. I've checked, okay, I'm good. Now I'm ready to reply. So I'm going to start writing a reply. But maybe we sort of had some canned responses because it's all about automation. Maybe there's a bot. It's all about that. How do we make it seamless? So I go, okay, is there something for me to do? The bot didn't catch us. I got to reply. Is there some canned response I got to look at? Fine. But I'm going to say, no, Roxy's really cool. So I'm just going to type my reply and say, and make sure she's happy, make sure we've established the relationship, and I'm out. Right? That is what Sprinklr Experience Cloud enables for you. It's a seamless, integratable, unified collaboration platform to enable customer experience at scale. Right? When we are able to deliver human connections and seamless experiences at every touch point with every customer on a single platform, we are going to absolutely win as brands in the marketplace today. My ask to you is join the revolution. Join the evolution with us. There are many people in this room who've been customers like I was, who understand what it is to be a definition partner, who understands what it is to be a partner that builds. I was talking to my former boss at Nike, and he said, Paul, a very important thing that you guys need to understand is delivery is a feature. I stole that. Sorry, Steve. Delivery is a feature. It's very important, and Sprinklr will deliver. Partner with us. Come talk to us. If anything on that really busy slide was attractive to you, come speak to us. We're building the future. We want to do it together. Thank you very much.
What do you think? Are we on the right track? Or, come on. You're going to have to give us some feedback over the next day and a half. So, we wanted to expose a little bit of the way we're thinking about it and kind of bringing it all together. We're trying to really make things a lot simpler. So, we've got one more speaker. And this next gentleman, I've gotten to hang out with him a lot. And I've gotten to know him fairly well. And I really, really like him. And, it started with us talking about a partnership and really taking it to market. So if you see one of the things that Paul was talking about is really the importance of care and how it's evolving. And as you saw in my slides, it's going to be done over different channels. It's not going to be traditionally where it's done now. And when you think about it through that context, the channel of preference in the world we're living in today, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder, Chris, but over 80% of the channels in English-speaking countries is over Twitter. Right? And that was a really strategic investment for us to do. So to talk a little bit about where Twitter is, where they're going, our relationship, and things that I think are important to you, please put a warm welcome for Chris Moody. Oh, I think I lost. No, I got my mic back. Got to let you in on a secret. So there were going to be 2 chairs here, and Chris said, no, we'll do it standing up. And then I later find out he wanted to look tall. So he set me up for that. And he looks hairy, too. So thank you, Chris. Thank you for joining us here. And, why don't we start it off? You and I have been doing a lot of dialogue. And I think one of the most important things is you guys are going through a transition.
Yes.
And you're looking at the business through a very different lens. Would you mind just maybe sharing how you're Twitter is looking at where you're going and what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I think what's happened with Twitter over the last few years is businesses have really started to embrace Twitter as this incredibly important platform for engaging with their customers. I think many of our customers say there is no better platform for them today than to engage with their customer than Twitter. And the reason is because, and I could talk in more detail if you want to go deeper, but this kind of magical trifecta of data to provide insights about your customers, an actual canvas by which you can create these amazing experiences, and then the fact that we actually bring an audience, an engaged audience to the platform. So consumers have said this is the way we want to engage, and businesses have. So we have been actively working on our platform and on our partnerships to address that opportunity really aggressively.
So one of the things that you and I have talked a lot about is, you've come from a sphere where you're teaming up with a very select few partners. So if you can just share a moment on that, and more importantly, why Sprinklr and Twitter?
Sure. So first of all, I couldn't be more excited that we have this new strategic partnership with Sprinklr. So the history is we have a platform, and the way we've traditionally developed our platform is we go out and talk to tool providers, solution providers, companies like Sprinklr, and we say, hey, what do you think your customers need? And then they tell us, and we basically let majority rule. So if 100 companies say, hey, what we really need from Twitter is X, then we go out and build X. And in some ways, we're disintermediating ourselves from this powerful relationship that we have direct relationships with certainly every consumer brand outside of China. We very likely have already a really strong working relationship. And so what we said was, look, what we should be doing in terms of thinking about where we go with our platform is we should be working more directly with customers and more directly with specific partners to help us get there. And so then when we thought about that and thought about partners, the first thing was whose customer base looks like our customer base. Basically, who has a big customer base that really represents major brands across the world? Sprinklr really stands out. Second thing was who really is ready to invest in innovation at the scale that we are. Again, I think Sprinklr has an amazing track record of innovation. And the third thing was who actually sees the world the same way that we do. A lot of what we've been talking about around digital transformation, very, very much the way we think about it. So, and the fourth thing is long track record of working together already. So it was an easy decision just to double down.
So why don't we share a little bit about what we have access to now that we didn't have in the past from a data side, because I think it's pretty, significant.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the heart of our partnership is around joint collaboration and really joint product collaboration. So you guys are out talking to customers every day. You know what their needs are. What we're doing is unleashing a bunch of new data that we haven't made available before, more insights around audiences, more engagement tools, so you can create those canvases that I was talking about. So we're bringing that all together. It will manifest itself through really cool products that you'll be able to offer.
Yeah, actually, one of the things we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 weeks is actually getting our joint engineering teams together and really kind of figuring out what can we build together. And, I mean, some really exciting things around the audience side and advertising, a lot on the care side, and really thinking of next-generation services. So as we're talking here over the next day or two, if you have any great ideas that we should be looking at, don't hesitate to ping Chris and I. Chris, you spend a lot of time with CMOs and that marketing community. What are you hearing? And give us a little sense of the tone of what you're seeing.
Well, look, I think many CMOs, businesses grew up in an analog era. And companies organized around the fact that they didn't really know very much about their customers. So they bucketed into silos around sales and marketing and care. And, that's really changing now. In the digital world, we actually have our customers are spewing off huge amounts of information about themselves. I often talk about just looking at Twitter. Twitter is the world's largest focus group, and people are expressing their desires and their interests every single day at a rate of almost 500 million tweets every single day. And so what CMOs are really interested in is how do we start to go from a siloed world to this continuum of a constant customer engagement and really delivering personalized experiences at scale. You know, we've been talking about one-to-one marketing, I think, for my entire career, and I'm no spring chicken, right? So we've been talking about it for a long time, and it sounds good, but it's really, really hard to deliver. But now we're starting to. I'll give you an example of something that I think really speaks to the future, and it's really simple. In some ways, it's just kind of fun and silly, but it speaks to the power of what CMOs are looking to lean in on, specifically with Twitter. So I don't know if did anyone actually do their March Madness bracket on Twitter with Wendy's? Literally no one. Maybe it wasn't as successful. Oh, okay.
The Twitter team did.
The Twitter team. All right, good job, guys. So, paying the bills. Wendy's is like, really? 3 people engaged? So Wendy's created this amazing experience. Actually, lots of people used it, trust me. So Wendy's created this amazing experience where you can actually fill out your bracket on Twitter for March Madness. They're a big sponsor, and they wanted to make this interactive experience. And so you could go through and you could choose your teams, game by game, but you'd also do fun things like you could choose your bracket based on your favorite Wendy's menu items and things like that. And then they kept you engaged, so they'd keep you updated on how your bracket was doing. If one of your brackets was busted, they'd let you actually choose a new bracket. It was really, really engaging and fun. And if you think about it, they did this at a very large scale. Lots and lots of people experienced it, but every person's experience was different, and it was an ongoing journey. Now you're thinking, well, sure, Wendy's could have put that in their mobile app. Why Twitter? Well, the thing about Twitter is not only did we create this cool canvas by which you could deliver that experience, but also we brought an audience that was really engaged already. If Wendy's had tried to do that, they would have had to compete with, the other 2 million apps in the App Store to try and get somebody's attention to do it. We brought an audience that was already engaged. We were able to identify who would be interested using data and get them engaged. So, those are the types of things that CMOs are really interested in doing. They're really interested in creating these personalized experiences at scale and getting out of the silos that have existed between, sales and marketing and care. It's really, this may have been talked about earlier this morning, but you and I have talked about this idea that it's really kind of fascinating that just within the same organization, you have marketing spending insane amounts of time and money trying to get customers engaged, and then you have the care team who's in the exact opposite boat. How can we spend as little money so we don't have to engage with customers? And that's just because we grew up in an analog world. In the digital world, where we can combine all of these interactions to a single experience and a single journey, the opportunities are much greater.
That's fantastic. I'm looking at the time, and it sounds like I've got time for one last question. I learned this trick from my older brother, John. Last question. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of take it anywhere you want. So the question I have for you is, if there's one thing that they need to know about the Twitter-Sprinklr relationship, what is it?
Well, we're just getting started. I don't know if I can keep it to one thing. So we're just getting started, right? So that's the first piece, right? We announced this new partnership a couple months ago, and as I said, the basis of it is new products that we're going to bring to market. And we're going to be engaging collectively with many of you. We're very interested in doing a lot of joint customer meetings, joint customer engagement to hear what your needs are, and then we're going to bring those to market as absolutely fast as possible. But know this, and this would be the one thing, it's going to be 100% driven by your needs. It's a very customer-driven partnership.
Well, I appreciate you being here and the support from your team, and more importantly, I'm really excited about our partnership and what we can bring and offer to our mutual clients. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're almost done. Just stay with me. I promise it's going to be really, really fast. We're going to get through here, and we're going to get you out. Quick moment. Hashtag unenterprise is trending. So keep doing it. Keep posting, because we're going to do it. And if not, I'll try to convince Chris to manipulate the day. No, only kidding. Can't do that. Second thing I want to let you know is tomorrow we're serving a hangover breakfast. Hopefully it's not what you're seeing on that screen because I feel like puking, right? But we're taking into consideration we're going to have fun tonight, right? And we're going to take care. There will be Bloody Marys in the morning. We may need them. The Transformation Hub, again, one more pitch to it. If you haven't been there, please go there. There are a lot of opportunities to do customer testimonials. We have a greenhouse within the Transformation Hub. If you go and do a testimonial, you do get an Amazon Echo, so Alexa will go home with you in a bag. The other one I want to make sure is that when we break from here, I think we've got something really, really cool for the food. Again, this is a conference we want to do that's very on enterprise, right? So what we got like 20 food trucks, I think it is, with all different things right outside. And what we'll be able to do is you'll be able to go out there and kind of choose what you want to eat. So enjoy that. I think that's going to be a really fun experience. And last but not least, there are a bunch of breakouts that are starting there. I hope everyone knows exactly where they need to go. And really, on behalf of myself and all of the Sprinklr employees, we so appreciate you being here. Did we do okay this morning for our first one? Thank you. We'll see you at the breakouts a little bit later. Enjoy your lunch. Take care. Thank you.